Chapter 1301. Unconcerned. But Princess Consort had indeed given them those instructions. Xiao Xian had initially planned to inform Xiao Yunduan about this matter. She believed that if Xiao Yunduan knew about it, he would be equally perturbed. Perhaps it was the fourth Princess Consort's strategy, and it might not be worth the effort. Consequently, she decided to maintain her silence and observe the fourth Princess Consort's intentions closely. She was determined to discern the fourth Princess Consort's motives. Xiao Xian refrained from disclosing the actual situation, and instead informed Xiao Yunduan that the fourth Princess Consort had extended an invitation for her to visit the mansion for a flower-related event. Anticipating that the fourth Princess Consort would inevitably invite the Princess Consort to the banquet, Xiao Yunduan instructed Xiao Xian to seek the Princess Consort's support. Given her role as the hostess, the fourth Princess Consort would not risk any harm befalling Xiao Xian while at her mansion. Xiao Xian responded with a smile. Meanwhile, at the East Palace, Auntie Fu couldn't help but express her disapproval to the Princess Consort, saying, "You shouldn't have agreed to the fourth Princess Consort's proposal today. It's quite humiliating. She invited Madame Xiao, and the next invitation should rightfully go to her." "How can it be like this?" The Princess Consort smiled indifferently and replied, "Who would have anticipated that we would encounter her at court today? Initially, I believe she had no intention of inviting Madame Xiao, but she brought it up, and considering she's my sister-in-law, I couldn't refuse such a trivial request." "That would be too stingy." Auntie Fu fell silent for a moment before suggesting, "But Madame Xiao is the spouse of an esteemed officer, and Officer Xiao is highly regarded by the Crown Prince. The fourth Princess Consort clearly doesn't hold Madame Xiao in high regard. We could issue one more invitation." Auntie Fu was about to suggest that arranging an additional invitation would be a simple matter for her. However, the Princess Consort hesitated. "Aunt, that might not be appropriate. Madame Xiao and Officer Xiao could misinterpret our intentions. Besides, Ms. Xiao is Ms. Xiao, isn't she? In all fairness, I feel sorry for Officer Xiao. Sister-in-law, even without mentioning her explicitly in the invitation, you've already expressed a high regard for her. I'm sure she'll be quite pleased. Do you think she'd pity herself instead?" Princess Consort cast a disdainful glance. She believed Madame Xiao was ill-suited for the occasion. Auntie Fu was left momentarily speechless but then smiled. "Madame Xiao may not be accustomed to such affairs. Princess Consort, it's essential for you to look after her when we visit the fourth Princess Consort's mansion tomorrow. Remember, if she were to embarrass herself, it would reflect poorly on you as well, and that wouldn't bode well for Officer Xiao." Princess Consort nodded with a hint of distaste. "You're right. She's accompanying me, so her actions do reflect on me. Tomorrow, you'll be responsible for ensuring she doesn't make a spectacle of herself." As for herself, she had too many other matters to attend to. That's what Auntie Fu was there for, and Princess Consort acknowledged it with a nod and a faint smile. Princess Consort gave Auntie Fu a meaningful look and added, "If she behaves inappropriately, don't hesitate to reprimand her. If she doesn't heed your advice, just inform her that it's my directive." Auntie Fu replied, "Yes, Princess Consort." The following morning, Xiao Yunduan chauffeured Xiao Xian and Li Xia, while Qing Yan handled the wagon. As Xiao Xian boarded the wagon with assistance, Xiao Yunduan couldn't resist squeezing her hand. She responded with a warm smile, and Xiao Yunduan reciprocated with a smile of his own. Once she was settled in the wagon, he headed to the Ministry of Revenue's governmental office. Xiao Xian arrived at the East Palace ahead of time, and the Princess Consort joined her later. Chapter 1302. Friendly Auntie Fu. The Princess Consort held the utmost importance among the guests, earning her the privilege of arriving last. As she meticulously prepared herself, Xiao Xian, unaware of her status, arrived at the East Palace. Caught in the midst of dressing up, she lacked the time to fully entertain Xiao Xian. Their initial exchange consisted of a few polite pleasantries, after which she swiftly dispatched a maid to guide Xiao Xian to the tea hall. However, Auntie Fu intercepted their path, extending a warm and courteous greeting. Xiao Xian remained unfazed by the Princess Consort's demeanor. She was well aware of her elevated position, and understood why the Princess Consort might view her with a hint of condescension. After all, she lacked the backing of a prestigious family name. With indifference, she continued to abide by the rules, harboring no aspirations to partake in the Princess Consort's family wealth or favor. Thus, she refrained from ingratiating herself. Auntie Fu's friendly yet respectful manner induced a touch of guilt within Xiao Xian. Inwardly, she couldn't help but envy the competence of servants honed by noble households. Engaging in conversation, Xiao Xian and Auntie Fu discussed her attire. She couldn't help but express her uncertainty. "Auntie, please don't mock me. I've never attended such a grand banquet, and I'm quite unfamiliar with proper attire. My only wish is to present myself decently. I hope I haven't transgressed any protocols." Auntie Fu couldn't help but appraise Xiao Xian. She was adorned in embroidered garments with delicate borders, a white-collared intermediate attire, a tasteful plum blossom not adorning the collar's peak, and a pleated skirt accentuated with white silver threads. Her ebony hair was elegantly coiled into a graceful horse bun, secured with a golden hairpin adorned with pearls. One side of the hairpin sparkled with emerald and red sapphire blossoms, while the other featured two exquisite begonia silk flowers. Interspersed among them were dainty hairpin flowers, adding an exquisite touch to her appearance. In full makeup, she exuded an aura of elegance and beauty. Auntie Fu held a favorable opinion of Madame Xiao, believing her to be highly astute and skilled in handling situations of this nature. With a warm smile, Auntie Fu nodded and said, "Madame Xiao, you're being too humble. Your makeup looks perfect. There's nothing to worry about. While you're at the fourth prince's mansion, feel free to reach out if you need anything. There's no need to hold back." Grateful for Auntie Fu's reassurance, Xiao Xian smiled back, saying, "Thank you, Auntie, but please don't stand on ceremony with me. I hope I won't trouble you." Auntie Fu chuckled in response. "Of course not." After a considerable wait, when the princess consort was finally ready, she dispatched someone to fetch Xiao Xian, and together, they made their way to the fourth prince's mansion alongside her two daughters-in-law. As expected upon their arrival, they found themselves among the last group of guests. The fourth princess consort, accompanied by the third prince's concubine and the second prince's concubine, emerged with a gathering of female attendees. As the host, the fourth princess consort warmly greeted everyone with a smile. The princess consort tugged at her and the third prince's concubine's sleeves, remarking, "We're all family here. There's no need for such formality. We shouldn't have arrived so late and made everyone uncomfortable." In response, they all smiled and expressed gratitude to the princess consort, praising her for her kindness and approachability. With a friendly demeanor, the fourth princess consort invited them inside. The banquet took place in the Furong Pavilion, situated on the eastern side of the fourth prince's mansion garden. The pavilion was surrounded by casually arranged peonies and variously shaped rockeries, creating a charming juxtaposition between the peonies and the natural landscape. Chapter 1303. Purpose. All varieties of peonies were clearly well tended, their robust stems supporting lush branches adorned with enormous bowl-sized blossoms. Among the verdant leaves and boughs, a profusion of colors unfolded, including rich reds, golden stamens, snow white, rosy pinks, deep purples, soft greens, pale yellows, and delicate pinks. Most of these blooms were double-petaled, their layers of petals gracefully unfurling in the bright sunlight, a feast for the eyes. Furong Pavilion was a sprawling, square structure, already prepared with a set table. The fourth princess consort beamed as she invited the princess consort to take her seat. Once the princess consort settled in, the concubines and the princess consort of the prefecture lord followed suit, guided to their designated spots by the attentive maids. On the table, tea and snacks were promptly served. These women were well acquainted within their social circle, well aware of the fourth princess consort's dignified and amiable demeanor. Consequently, they felt no trepidation in her presence and quickly engaged in cheerful conversation. Secondary concubine Shi had previously invited Xiao Xian to a banquet at the fourth prince's residence, but the contrast between secondary concubine Shi and the fourth princess consort was stark. Secondary concubine Shi had once been the center of attention, yet now she found herself sitting behind the fourth princess consort, radiating contentment. As for He Jiqing, she could only stand dutifully behind the fourth princess consort, tending to her needs like a palace maid. Her attire resembled that of a top-tier palace maid by the fourth princess consort's side, and she dared not draw any attention to herself. Xiao Xian shot a fleeting glance in her direction before shifting her gaze away. Times had changed. He Jiqing, hailing from the esteemed Xie family in Yuzhong province, had been the object of adoration among the province's noblewomen. She possessed talent and beauty, exuding elegance and distinction, leaving many noblewomen envious. However, within the confines of the fourth prince's residence, She assumed the role of a mere servant. She couldn't help but wonder if she would come to regret her journey this far. What was she truly seeking? Xiao Xian harbored no sympathy for her and silently made a mental note of her observations. She hadn't forgotten her past actions. However, at this moment, she had no intention of taking any immediate action against her. After all, if her current plan were to fail, she wouldn't have a pleasant stay at the fourth prince's mansion, would she? The group rose from their seats, and the enchanting garden was in full bloom, inviting them all for a leisurely stroll. The young ladies couldn't bear to stay put any longer. They eagerly joined their closest friends, relishing their time together. The fourth princess consort remained in the company of the princess consort. Tian Shanshan, the fourth prince's cousin, was also in attendance. She cast a contemptuous glance in Xiao Xian's direction and offered a sly smile. But as long as Tian Shanshan was around, none of the ladies from other pavilions or the young madams dared to approach Xiao Xian or extend greetings. They didn't want to cause any inconvenience for Lady Tian. Furthermore, most of the guests aligned with the fourth princess consort were firmly on the fourth prince's side, leaving Xiao Xian with little support. Xiao Xian comprehended the situation well. She had no desire to forge new connections. They were about to embark on a carefree, nonchalant stroll with Xia when a passing maid accidentally spilled half a pot of tea on Xia. Xia let out a startled scream. Xiao Xian was taken aback as well. She quickly reached out to Xia. "Is it hot?" Lixia's complexion shifted between shades of red and white as she nervously shook her head. The tea wasn't scalding, but it was uncomfortably warm, making her flinch. Chapter 1304. Accident. The maid trembled with fear, sinking to her knees in supplication. "I'm so sorry, madam. Please, find it in your heart to forgive us." Instantly, the room's occupants turned their attention to the sudden commotion. Xiao Xian remained silent, his expression unreadable. Xia, taken aback by the maid's distress, instinctively moved to assist her. However, Xiao Xian halted her with a gesture. "Just rise, please." Xiao Xian addressed the maid, his voice firm but not unkind. Relieved that Xia appeared unharmed, the maid's anxiety lessened slightly. "Please, Madam Xiao," she implored between sobs. "Stand up now," Xiao Xian urged her gently. "Do you require my personal assistance?" Startled, the maid lifted her gaze, meeting Xiao Xian's knowing look. Her trembling subsided, and she rose to her feet instinctively. Secondary concubine Sher arrived with her entourage, apologizing to Xiao Xian. "I apologize, Madam Xiao," she said, her tone contrite. "I'm truly sorry for this incident." She then turned her attention to the maid and scolded her sternly. "You must be more cautious. How could you collide with us? It's disgraceful." Secondary concubine Sher cast a lingering glance at Xia, as though her disapproval extended to the maid, Xia, or even Xiao Xian's mistress. Xia sensed the unspoken tension in the room and felt her cheeks flush. Xiao Xian offered a warm smile. "Secondary concubine Sher, let's not dwell on this. I don't believe the girl meant any harm. Please, let's forgive her." Secondary concubine Sher's facial expression twitched, and she responded to Xiao Xian with a forced smile. "If Madame Xiao wishes it, then so be it. Madame Xiao is known for her kindness and treating her subordinates as sisters. I'm a straightforward person, and it seems I've misunderstood the situation. You have a good heart, Madame Xiao, and you're teasing me." Secondary concubine Sher, "You certainly have a great sense of humor." Xiao Xian's smile remained affable. "My treatment of sisters is quite different, and I was merely offering a few words of comfort to this frightened girl. It's a bit of a stretch to say I treat her like a sister, don't you think? But if that's how you treat sisters, that's quite remarkable, I must say." Secondary concubine Sher's irritation became palpable, and she responded to Xiao Xian with a strained half-smile. "Madame Xiao, I was simply expressing my observation." "No, I wouldn't want any misunderstandings to linger," Xiao Xian explained with a hint of discomfort. "I prefer clarity in our interactions." Secondary concubine Sher chuckled, though her true feelings were thinly veiled. A crowd had gathered to witness the exchange, both surprised and annoyed by Xiao Xian's retorts. They questioned her audacity. What gives her the right? She's quite stingy. Her words are as sharp as a marketplace quarrel, and she seems to relish confrontation. Not very dignified. Etiquette? She clearly has none. Secondary concubine sure found solace in the chorus of agreement, casting a triumphant look at Xiao Xian. Internally seething, Xiao Xian sneered. Do you really think I lack etiquette? Secondary concubine sure inwardly agreed but dared not vocalize it. Instead, she maintained a polite smile. Of course not. But her politeness did little to soothe Xiao Xian's annoyance. How dare she attempt to steal elder Miss husband? Xiao Yunduan had assisted the crown prince to such an extent that his own son had suffered greatly. Did it surprise anyone that he mocked her? She felt it was justified. Chapter 1305. None of her business. That's excellent. Xiao Xian exclaimed with a radiant smile and a touch of pride in her voice. My husband always praises my virtues and impeccable manners. He truly believes in my goodness. Secondary concubine sure. She was unable to dispute Xiao Yunduan's opinion. This revelation surprised many, causing their gazes to shift instinctively towards Tian Shanshan. Tian Shanshan maintained a composed exterior, but beneath the surface, anger simmered. She couldn't fathom why everyone was fixated on her. Their comments had nothing to do with her. In the distance, the fourth princess consort and her entourage approached, overhearing the conversation. One of the prefecture lord's princess consorts chimed in with a sly smile. Madame Xiao is quite sharp-witted. After all, a concubine's daughter is just that, a concubine's daughter. Officer Xiao, you exude gentility and refinement, a perfect match. A few other ladies chuckled and exchanged hushed remarks. The fourth princess consort chose to remain silent. Princess consort felt a twinge of embarrassment, her refined nature clashing with Xiao Xian's assertiveness. She couldn't help but resent that Xiao Xian's competitiveness might tarnish Officer Xiao's reputation. Xiao Xian, a mere concubine's daughter, seemed to be making matters worse. Princess consort even regretted not declining the fourth sister-in-law's invitation the day before. She shouldn't have brought Xiao Xian along. Auntie Fu sighed inwardly, observing Princess consort's lack of response. Princess consort epitomized dignity and grace, always mindful of her image to avoid any criticism for impoliteness or lack of virtue. However, there were times when she went to great lengths to maintain this facade. Secondary concubine Shi's actions were clearly aimed at humiliating Madame Xiao, an injustice that shouldn't be allowed to persist. Madame Xiao had been brought to this gathering by Princess Consort, and it was incumbent upon her to defend Madame Xiao, especially when Officer Xiao possessed such exceptional talents. If Madame Xiao were to become deeply upset and complain to Officer Xiao, what impression would it leave on him? Auntie Fu, though aware of this delicate situation, dared not voice her concerns. She offered a reassuring smile and said, Princess Consort, allow me to check on the situation. Princess Consort nodded and exchanged a meaningful glance with Auntie Fu, conveying her desire for Auntie Fu to discreetly remind Xiao Xian to maintain her composure. This unspoken communication left Auntie Fu sighing inwardly. With a warm greeting, Auntie Fu approached them and suggested, Concubine Madame Xiao, perhaps it's time for Lixia to change her attire. Secondary concubine Shi nodded with a smile, admitting, You are right, I almost forgot about that. She then singled out one of the maids and instructed, Lixia, go change your clothes. Lixia turned towards Xiao Xian, who simply nodded and encouraged, Go ahead. Though Lixia held significant importance in Xiao Xian's life, only Xiao Xian and perhaps Lixia herself were aware of this. Others often regarded maids and servants as expendable pawns or scapegoats. Even if someone attempted to manipulate Lixia, it would unlikely reflect negatively on Xiao Xian. Lixia felt a hint of nervousness but trusted her mistress implicitly. If Xiao Xian asked this of her, it must be for a good reason. Approaching with a gracious smile, the fourth princess consort inquired, Madame Xiao, is everything now in order? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1306. Xiang Rui. Xiao Xian graciously bowed her head and flashed a warm smile. I appreciate your concern, fourth princess consort. I am perfectly well. The fourth princess consort, relieved to hear this, reprimanded secondary concubine Shi and instructed one of the maids to step forward. She then turned back to Xiao Xian, her smile unyielding. Since your personal maid is not present, it would be inconvenient for you. Xiang Rui, you may accompany Madame Xiao and attend to her needs. Madame Xiao, please accept her assistance. There is no need to decline. Allow Xiang Rui to serve you. With a respectful demeanor, Xiang Rui responded in a hushed tone, offering a polite bow to Xiao Xian before discreetly positioning herself behind her mistress. Feeling obliged by the circumstances, Xiao Xian returned Xiang Rui's courtesy with a gracious smile. The fourth princess consort beamed and extended an invitation to all present to enjoy the blooming flowers. While some of these peonies were of a rare and superior quality, they lacked the visual charm one might expect. Nonetheless, everyone smiled in appreciation. Xiao Xian couldn't help but spot a few of these exceptional peonies and yearned to acquire one to transplant into her own unique space. Yet, the garden was teeming with guests, making it impossible to act on her impulse. The thought of someone witnessing her actions and demanding an explanation deterred her from taking any such liberties. In reality, since arriving in the capital, she had already amassed a collection of extraordinary flowers in her private domain. Xiang Rui remained steadfast at Xiao Xian's side, providing company and engaging in a delightful conversation about the various flowers in the garden. Xiao Xian, unwilling to vent her frustrations on a mere maid, found herself genuinely captivated by the conversation, especially considering her profound interest in flora and her extraordinary abilities. They continued to exchange pleasantries with Xiang Rui, immersing themselves in the world of blossoms and botany. After a while, a housekeeper approached them, wearing a reassuring smile. She relayed the news that Wuxia had suffered only minor injuries, exhibiting redness and swelling on her front, with some skin peeling. Wuxia had already received medical attention and was now being treated with ointment. A full recovery was expected within a few days, with no lasting scars to worry about. However, it would be preferable if she could remain in her quarters and avoid this place altogether. Xiao Xian furrowed her brow and gave a solemn nod. She was determined not to allow Wuxia to be scarred. Even if the doctor had mentioned the possibility of scarring, Xiao Xian was resolute in her decision to prevent it from happening. Fortunately, Wuxia's condition seemed to be improving, and she was not of great importance in the grand scheme of things. In the grand hierarchy, Wuxia was just a maid, and there was little more that could be done to address the incident. Xiang Rui continued to attend to Xiao Xian's needs. Following their meal, they gathered in the hall for tea and lively conversation, discussing the latest fashion trends, accessories, cosmetics, and rouge popular in the capital. As the time to depart approached, Princess Consort was the first to take her leave, and those engaged in conversation rose to bid her farewell. Xiao Xian accompanied Princess Consort, and as the princess departed, she followed suit. Wuxia had also been brought along. The two exchanged a glance, and Wuxia offered a reassuring smile, assuring Xiao Xian that everything was fine. Xiao Xian acknowledged her with a subtle nod. The fourth princess consort wore a pleasant smile and turned her attention to Xiao Xian. Madame Xiao, what are your impressions of Xiang Rui? I hope you did not feel inconvenienced. Xiao Xian replied graciously, fourth princess consort, you jest. Miss Xiang Rui is remarkably well-mannered and attentive. It is evident she hails from the prince's mansion. She is truly exceptional. In your case, Madame Xiao, it seems destiny has played its hand, and I am inclined to bestow Xiang Rui upon you. Xiang Rui, please serve Madame Xiao diligently, and ensure you do not bring any disgrace upon me or the fourth prince's mansion, understood? The unexpected announcement left everyone in astonishment, including Xiao Xian herself. Xiang Rui nodded in acknowledgement and offered a respectful kowtow to the fourth princess consort. She then stood and positioned herself behind Xiao Xian, as if she were now exclusively in her service. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1307. Princess Consort's Anger. Princess Consort was growing increasingly irritated. She had never anticipated such behavior from the fourth princess consort. Xiao Yunduan served the crown prince, while the fourth princess consort presented gifts to Xiao Xian. It left her bewildered. What was happening here? Whether or not this individual was the spy dispatched by the fourth prince's household was beside the point. Xiang Rui possessed beauty and an appealing figure. She couldn't possibly be foolish to have been chosen by the fourth princess consort. The uncertainty of her intentions weighed on Princess Consort's mind. Neither Xiao Yunduan nor Qiao Xian could simply dismiss her. On the contrary, they had to treat her well because of her title bestowed upon her by the fourth Princess Consort. Princess Consort had nothing to fear. If an opportunity arose for her to gain favor with Xiao Yunduan, she could consider taking Xiang Rui as a concubine. Why not? Who could guarantee that such a situation would never transpire? The more Princess Consort pondered these thoughts, the more her annoyance grew. Nevertheless, she had never contemplated turning down the fourth Princess Consort's favor in favor of Qiao Xian. She was, after all, the Princess Consort, and she had to display respect for her sister-in-law, the fourth Princess Consort, in front of numerous witnesses. Otherwise, she'd be labeled as narrow-minded and petty. Such a reputation was something she couldn't afford. Princess Consort didn't arbitrarily send someone to the Xiao family. She had made a decision. She would assign someone to discreetly monitor Xiang Rui and ensure she didn't achieve her goals. Qiao Xian should have chosen someone clever to serve the crown prince, enabling Xiao Yunduan to take her as a concubine and assist in managing the household so that he could wholeheartedly serve the crown prince. With her resolve made, Princess Consort's anger began to dissipate. She smiled and turned to Qiao Xian, who was still in a daze. Ms. Qiao, the fourth Princess Consort, has shown her generosity. You should thank her. Qiao Xian's eyes widened, clearly taken aback by the situation. She remained silent, assuming that Princess Consort would come to her defense. Aren't they supposed to be a team, even if Princess Consort didn't hold her in high regard? Princess Consort couldn't possibly just stand by and allow the fourth Princess Consort to send the maid to the Xiao family, especially when the maid was so beautiful. Qiao Xian could easily discern the fourth Princess Consort's intentions. Attempting to keep her composure, Qiao Xian smiled and gracefully bent her knees. Thank you for your generosity, fourth Princess Consort, but my humble abode cannot accommodate so many people, so I must respectfully decline your offer. Gasps filled the room as people exchanged bewildered glances. Had Miss Qiao lost her mind? How could she publicly disrespect the fourth Princess Consort like this? Regardless of Xiao Yunduan's status in the East Palace, he was just a lowly fifth-ranked officer, not even ranking above the fourth prince. Miss Qiao wouldn't dare to do this unless she had a death wish. The fourth Princess Consort sneered, her tone biting. Madam Xiao, are you rejecting my offer? If you recognize my goodwill, why decline? Qiao Xian had intended to pressure her into accepting the proposal, but it seemed that she had become the one humiliated. Tian Shanshan sneered, deeming Qiao Xian too petty for such a public display. What noble wife from a prestigious family would act so ignorantly? Qiao Xian responded, her voice firm. I am not worthy of such kindness. Ridiculous! The fourth Princess Consort decided not to further embarrass Qiao Xian in public. That would be beneath her. Qiao Xian didn't merit such humiliation from her. She turned to Princess Consort, raised an eyebrow and offered a half-smile. You share the same sentiment, Princess Consort? I merely intended to extend a kind gesture, yet you seem to think I have ulterior motives. Am I mistaken? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1308. No Harvest. Auntie Fu was inwardly consumed by anxiety, dreading that the Princess Consort might align with the fourth Princess Consort to pressure Qiao Xian. The fourth Princess Consort, constrained by her position, refrained from taking overt actions but silently cursed Qiao Xian for her lack of discernment. However, Qiao Xian remained resolute in accepting the Princess Consort's proposal. The Princess Consort discerned the intentions of the fourth Princess Consort. Nevertheless, Qiao Xian was in her company, and Xiao Yunduan served the crown prince, obliging her to address the fourth Princess Consort's inquiry with tact, avoiding causing embarrassment. Despite her internal frustration, Princess Consort found herself trapped in this predicament. Every stride taken by her and the crown prince was fraught with hardship and constraint. They were denied the freedom enjoyed by others. Qiao Xian had perceived the Princess Consort's dilemma and was reluctant to place such a burdensome decision on her. When Princess Consort finally spoke, it sealed her fate, and both she and her husband yearned to evade the looming predicament. Fourth Princess Consort, there is no need to consult the Princess Consort. This matter falls under my purview, not yours. I humbly request your forgiveness, fourth Princess Consort. Princess Consort breathed a sigh of relief, compelled to speak her piece. She forced a smile and added, "Fourth sister-in-law, Miss Qiao is absolutely correct. Miss Qiao is a timid soul and does not merit any rewards. Fourth sister-in-law, rest assured." Bah! The fourth princess consort responded with a derisive scoff. Internally, the princess consort sighed deeply and continued with a strained smile. "This young lady is called Xiang Rui, correct? She possesses a unique and clever disposition. Fourth sister-in-law, if you permit, I would like to take her under my wing." The princess consort didn't genuinely consider anyone from the fourth prince's mansion a significant threat. She merely offered an escape route to the fourth princess consort. In reality, she could easily take this man home and confine him in an available courtyard within the East Palace. The fourth princess consort's expression softened momentarily. However, when she pondered how diligently Xiang Rui had been trained, she hesitated to squander her talents in the East Palace. She forced a smile and dismissed the offer, saying, "Let's drop the matter. Your establishment is filled with clever individuals." This response only deepened Princess Consort's irritation. She had extended a lifeline, only to have it rejected. This man was truly exasperating. "In that case, I shall take my leave. Farewell, Princess Consort." The fourth princess consort shot a glance at Xiao Xian and sneered. "Madam Xiao, there's no need for such politeness. We'll have ample opportunities in the future. I'm confident in my ability to discern right from wrong, and won't cause any trouble for Madam Xiao." Xiao Xian averted her gaze, as if she hadn't heard the comment. The fourth princess consort regarded her with disdain. Subsequently, Princess Consort, her daughter-in-law, and Xiao Xian departed. Others followed suit until they had all departed, leaving an atmosphere of palpable humiliation that discouraged onlookers from remaining. Princess Consort harbored considerable displeasure toward Xiao Xian. She instructed someone to inform Xiao Xian that she was fatigued and that she could head home directly. Xiao Xian yearned to distance herself from the princess consort and her family. Upon returning home, she consoled Lixia and inquired about the extent of her injuries. Seeing Lixia's diminished anxiety, she found some solace. Initially, Lixia felt tremendous guilt, blaming herself for her carelessness and the humiliation inflicted upon Madame Yuezheng. Xiao Xian shook her head gently. "Someone is orchestrating these events against us. We can't entirely evade them. Try not to dwell on it." Lixia remained bewildered for a while, only regaining her composure after some time. Was this a deliberate trap? She hadn't sensed it at all. Her despondency deepened. If she couldn't evade these schemes, she risked causing problems for Madame Qiao. She resolved to be more cautious in the future. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1309. Grievance. Xiao Yunduan arrived home earlier than usual, his brow furrowed with concern as he glanced at Xiao Xian. Xiao Xian greeted him with a warm smile. "Darling, you're back early today." Xiao Yunduan gently embraced her. "Did you have a difficult day?" Xiao Xian pondered how to express her day's events, then looked up at him, her eyes blinking thoughtfully. "I encountered some individuals who tried to intimidate me, but I stood my ground, so I don't feel aggrieved." A trace of guilt crossed Xiao Yunduan's face. You shouldn't visit those places anymore. He wished they could spend time with familiar acquaintances, but he was wary of the palaces and residences of princes, kings, and monarchs. Xiao Xian offered a reassuring smile. "I thought you might want me to be present there." Working for the crown prince, she assumed he'd appreciate her visits to these prestigious mansions. Xiao Yunduan clarified, "Not unless there's a special occasion with a distinguished guest." "All right, I won't go then," Xiao Xian agreed. Xiao Yunduan smiled warmly. "If anything like this happens again, I'll stand up for you." "That's reassuring," Xiao Xian replied as they both took their seats. "I feel like I've helped you eliminate some undesirable connections." Xiao Yunduan was taken aback and quickly said, "No, that's not true. If you've heard anything suggesting otherwise, someone must be trying to sow discord between us." Xiao Xian was torn between laughter and tears. "I never suspected you. I just didn't explain myself clearly. Earlier today, when we were leaving, Something happened involving the fourth princess consort. Xiao Xian proceeded to recount the entire incident, including how tea had been accidentally spilled on Li Xia and the persistent actions of the maid named Xiang Rui. Xiao Yunduan scowled. The fourth princess consort is truly insufferable. Xiao Xian reluctantly accepted the proposal, realizing that this man was a persistent source of trouble that couldn't be easily shaken off. She put on a brave smile. I turned down their offer directly, but it might make me seem jealous. Darling, if anyone speaks ill of me, you must come to my defense. We should have declined their offer. We have no real connection to the fourth prince's mansion, and accepting such gifts for free would be improper. My dear, you have no reason to be jealous. It's simply a matter of propriety. I'll be the first to reject anyone who dares to speak ill of you. Really? Don't forget that promise, my love. Xiao Yunduan grinned. I won't forget. I won't let anything harm Xian, even if it means serving the crown prince. Xiao Xian felt a warm rush of affection. Her husband remained the same caring and protective man she had always known, which brought her comfort. Some things couldn't be compromised, no matter how challenging the circumstances. The more Princess Consort contemplated the situation, the more irritated she became. Once the maids had been dismissed, and only Auntie Fu remained to attend to them, Princess Consort couldn't contain her frustration any longer. She slammed her hand on the table and vented her anger. Ms. Qiao is incredibly foolish. She's just a servant, and Xiao Yunduan has no interest in Tian Shanshan. He won't be ensnared by a mere maid. What's the point of her taking her back home? Our estate is far too grand for her to reside in. And to humiliate the fourth princess consort right in front of me. Didn't she realize how embarrassing that is for me? Chapter 13:10. Princess Consort. She is merely the daughter of a concubine, raised in humble surroundings. Her audacity knows no bounds. Auntie Fu. Don't be upset, Auntie Fu offered tea with a smile. Madame Xiao and Officer Xiao are a young couple, and it's natural for them not to tolerate interference. Moreover, the fourth princess consort's gratuitous gifts are an attempt to force Madame Xiao into submission in front of so many witnesses. It's excessively ostentatious. Madame Xiao's refusal would indeed be a blow to the fourth princess consort's pride, but it would spare you a great deal of trouble. It could even impact Officer Xiao negatively. The princess consort sighed. I understand that fourth sister-in-law has ulterior motives, but I cannot disregard the royal family's dignity. If someone suggests that Ms. Qiao is humiliating fourth sister-in-law due to my influence or approval, how can I defend myself? Aunt, you know how challenging these years have been for the crown prince and me. Ms. Qiao is impulsive. She's just a maid, and we can find a way to manage her without confronting fourth sister-in-law like this. She is not a virtuous person, and she might cause trouble for Officer Xiao in the future. Auntie Fu's eyelids twitched as she asked, Princess Consort, are you suggesting? The princess consort pondered for a moment and replied, in a few days I will assign someone to her, thus quelling the rumors. We should act preemptively to prevent others from exploiting this situation. If she were more virtuous, she would have taken a concubine for Officer Xiao. She's quite short-sighted. Auntie Fu had no words to offer in response to the princess consort's statements. Madame Xiao's public rejection of the fourth princess consort had exposed her character. The princess consort didn't see much difference between her and the fourth princess consort. If Madame Xiao refused again, it would reflect poorly on everyone. If Officer Xiao remained silent regarding Madame Xiao, what was the point of the princess consort's intervention? Auntie Fu did not perceive any bias in the princess consort's attitude towards Madame Xiao. Madame Xiao treated people kindly and displayed great politeness and gentleness, which contradicted any notion of frivolity. However, the situation had unfolded primarily due to the actions of the fourth princess consort. Nonetheless, it was evident that the princess consort was still quite upset about the events of the day. Auntie Fu chose not to dissuade her directly but contemplated for a moment before suggesting, Princess Consort, considering Officer Xiao's involvement, should we inform the crown prince first? Officer Xiao's standing differs from that of the other officers, given his refusal of the Tian family. Addressing this matter with the crown prince beforehand might help preserve Officer Xiao's relationship with him. They were all well aware of how deeply the crown prince valued Officer Xiao, a sentiment not solely rooted in Minister Old Yun's influence. Officer Xiao possessed notable capabilities, and the Crown Prince had spoken highly of him on numerous occasions. The Princess Consort consistently prioritized the interests of the Crown Prince. Upon hearing Auntie Fu's suggestion, she hesitated momentarily before nodding and agreeing. "You're right. I'll discuss it with the Crown Prince tonight." The Princess Consort promptly instructed the kitchen to prepare dishes that the Crown Prince favored and extended an invitation for him to join them for dinner, as she had something important to discuss with him. Chapter 13:11. Unconvincing. After dinner, the Princess Consort confided in Xiao Xian about the day's events, her frustration with Xiao Xian evident. The Crown Prince chuckled and inquired about the specifics. She then adopted a serene demeanor. "Princess Consort, there's no need for such anger. This is a minor issue, not worth escalating further." The Princess Consort's eyes widened, and she countered, "Crown Prince, failing to address Ms. Xiao's behavior could lead to complications, especially with Officer Xiao involved. He has no support, and Ms. Xiao's reputation isn't favorable." The Crown Prince's expression grew stern. "Princess Consort, after old minister's guidance, I've chosen not to accept any more disciples. However, he has made an exception for Xiao Yunduan, who stands out as a promising officer with a future. He and Ms. Xiao share a close bond and can't tolerate any interference. Ms. Xiao's temperament matches his. So, Princess Consort, let us abandon this notion. Today's incident can be attributed to fourth sister-in-law, who didn't press us publicly. Ms. Xiao declined our invitation, which is a minor matter. Don't let it trouble you, Princess Consort." Despite the Crown Prince's reasoning, the Princess Consort couldn't shake off her lingering anger. She felt misunderstood and frustrated. She believed her actions were in the Crown Prince's and the kingdom's best interests. Why couldn't the Crown Prince see her intentions? But she was accustomed to obeying the Crown Prince's decisions. With his stance clear, she held back her objections, forcing a smile as she conceded, "I will follow your counsel, but it would be wise for Ms. Xiao to discreetly remind Officer Xiao to avoid any future entanglements." The Crown Prince reassured her. "Officer Xiao is no fool, Princess Consort. Rest assured." The Princess Consort nodded, reluctantly agreeing. Very well. What a futile expenditure of her efforts. The Crown Prince, burdened with his duties, returned to his study, leaving the Princess Consort to stew in her frustration for a while before taking a brief respite. They were a united couple, supportive of each other. The Crown Prince's disinterest in the charms of other women made the atmosphere among the wives and concubines in the East Palace harmonious. As the years passed, the Crown Prince's visits to their chambers became rare, occurring mostly on the 15th day of the new year. He maintained a certain respect for her as his primary wife. The majority of his time was consumed by his studies, and Princess Consort upheld her dignity and virtue, never succumbing to envy. She simply couldn't fathom why Xiao Xian showed such devotion to a lowly maid. It seemed utterly irrational. What exacerbated the situation was the Crown Prince's unwavering support for Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan, rendering her indifference to his opinion. Where did this trust in the Crown Prince stem from? Unbeknownst to Princess Consort, both Xiao Yunduan and Xiao Xian were actively, both openly and covertly, extending financial support to the Crown Prince. He had no intention of creating discord over such a trivial matter. Xiao Yunduan was transparent about his actions, not taking credit for any of Xiao Xian's accomplishments. Chapter 13:12. Not at all. The Crown Prince never anticipated that a woman of such capability would stir up any trouble merely due to jealousy. Furthermore, he couldn't help but wonder about the possibility of someone from the fourth prince's estate infiltrating the Xiao family and uncovering something sensitive. Such a situation would undoubtedly pose a significant problem. In his mind, the Crown Prince even entertained the notion that Xiao Xian might be opposing the fourth Princess Consort to protect the secret of generating revenue for him. If that were the case, he would be deeply moved and would harbor no ill feelings toward her. Nevertheless, he knew he couldn't confide in the Princess Consort about this matter. Yet, the Crown Prince had full confidence that the Princess Consort would never act on his suggestions. For him, that assurance sufficed, and it marked the conclusion of this particular storm. However, Xiao Xian had earned a reputation as a somewhat jealous woman, but she remained indifferent to such judgments. After all, what harm was there in earning and counting money? Xiao Yunduan shared her indifference to the opinions of others. In fact, She felt that her beloved wife had been unjustly treated. She made it a point to rush home as soon as her official duties allowed, providing Xian with comfort and support in various ways. Their intimacy in the boudoir was marked by tenderness and consideration, and their bond grew stronger. Some people attempted to console or even ridicule Xiao Yunduan, suggesting that she should take concubines or consider other arrangements. However, she steadfastly refused, always standing up for Xiao. Xiao Yunduan declined all invitations to visit brothels, earning her the reputation of being an unconventional husband. Now, Xiao knew that these interactions were simply good-natured banter. In their eyes, they were the perfect couple. The princess consort's expression clearly conveyed a sense of vindication, as if she had unearthed irrefutable evidence. She felt compelled to share her discovery with the crown prince, asserting that Xiao Yunduan's reputation should not be unjustly tarnished. However, the crown prince swiftly intervened, cautioning her against entangling herself in their affairs. Xiao Yunduan had no reason to be concerned about the opinions of the elderly ministers. With her support, the crown prince's position was considerably fortified. As long as both Xiao Yunduan and Xiao remained indifferent to minor matters, the crown prince saw no need to become involved. Their relationship was a private matter, not subject to external scrutiny. Frustrated, the princess consort reluctantly abandoned her plan. Consequently, many individuals in the court who had been anticipating a spectacle and hoping to witness Xiao Yunduan's disdain for Xiao were left disappointed. This disappointment was particularly pronounced within the Tian family and the Qiao family. In early August, Zhao Shu returned to the capital from Jiangnan and promptly paid a visit to Xiao and Xiao Yunduan. Zhao Shu brought with him several bottles of perfume produced at the workshop. They had recently begun crafting scents like gardenia, jasmine, and roses. These fragrances were housed in exquisitely designed bottles, each about 2 inches in length, featuring a slender tube connected to a purple copper cap, allowing them to emit a fine mist of perfume when pressed. To create these perfume bottles, Zhao Shu had constructed a specialized glazed workshop and recruited skilled artisans at a premium cost. Each of these small bottles carried a price tag of 5 liang, but their quality justified the expense. Although the floral field was still in its infancy and the perfume workshop was in the early stages of blending, the perfumes produced boasted rich colors and an exceptionally pure fragrance. No noble women, madams, or ladies of the court could resist the allure of such fragrances. Chapter 13:13. Worth the money. This small bottle could fetch a price of at least hundreds of liang. This is the second batch, and combined with the 20 pieces from the first batch, we now have a total of 56 pieces. I have brought 10 pieces with me for Madame Xiao to inspect, and I will arrange a clear distribution channel for the remainder. I will simply market them as imports from the West, destined for Su State and Jiangning. The asking price is 100 taels of silver per bottle. What are your thoughts, Madame Xiao? Xiao could immediately discern the pure aroma and felt pleasantly surprised. She grinned. Young Master Zhao, your capabilities are truly impressive. I hadn't anticipated that you could produce this perfume so quickly. I had expected it to take at least 10 months. The scent is exceptionally pure, and the craftsmen you've engaged are clearly skilled. You must have invested quite a sum. Zhao Shu beamed with pride upon hearing her compliments, his smile nearly reaching his ears. Madame Xiao, your words are too kind. It's your superb craftsmanship that has earned such admiration from the craftsmen. Even some of the stubborn ones, who acted as if they were owed 2 million liang, became quite compliant once they saw the banknotes. We can't just send them packing. It's definitely worth it. 4 years, he had been mired in pain and unresolved resentment, uncertain about his future. He had even experienced moments of despair. Even if his suspicions were true, lacking concrete evidence made it a futile endeavor. Zhao Mu was his father, always towering over him, rendering him powerless. Until he encountered Xiao and Xiao Yunduan, who breathed new life into him and provided a fresh purpose. At last, he had his own career. He felt a sense of accomplishment and pride he had never known before, grounding him and filling him with enthusiasm. He was finally driven. He knew that his mother's spirit in the heavens would be overjoyed to see him gather his life's purpose and chart a new direction. Xiao smiled. Those with exceptional skills often possess strong personalities, and they tend to be fiercely loyal. They're a better investment than those solely driven by material gain. Treating them well is not just advisable, It's essential. Don't fret, Madam Xiao. Zhao Shu had never been short of funds, and he had a generous disposition. His smile radiated warmth. I hold them in high regard as well. I'm offering 100 liang, and that doesn't even include the year-end bonus you mentioned earlier. It's far more than what they earned during their days in the incense trade. Uncle Qing and I have been discussing the possibility of mentoring bright young talents, ensuring they receive proper guidance. Of course, we'll treat them fairly. Those willing to mentor new disciples will receive extra compensation, or they can choose to mentor independently. However, their apprentices must commit to at least 15 years of service in our workshop. Zhao Shu elaborated on his plan with Uncle Qing to Qiao Xian. Internally, Qiao Xian nodded in agreement. She couldn't deny that in the realm of business, her own knowledge was lacking compared to Uncle Qing and the other seasoned professionals. Uncle Qing and his associates possessed a deeper understanding of the market and exhibited shrewdness and wisdom. They boasted decades of experience in various business dealings, encountering all types of individuals. Their meticulous planning left no room for doubt. Finding a manager with the qualifications and competence to oversee such a venture was no small feat. In fact, attracting such exceptional talent in the market was a near impossible task, unless they stumbled upon an extraordinary stroke of luck. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 13-14. Talk about business. Talents like these were either nurtured by various businesses from a young age or cultivated through individual efforts. Qiao Xian had a clear understanding. She wouldn't involve herself in things she didn't comprehend, and Xiao Yunduan was even more reserved. During discussions with Zhao Shu, he sat quietly by Qiao Xian's side, not interrupting. Initially, Zhao Shu felt uneasy, but he grew accustomed to it over time. Qiao Xian paid close attention and occasionally offered one or two suggestions. Her perspective differed from that of Zhao Shu and Uncle Qing, often enlightening them like a window into their minds. Zhao Shu and Uncle Qing were deeply impressed. It was no wonder that, besides Madame Xiao, Mr. Xiao didn't see anyone else of comparable stature in the entire empire. Regarding the perfume's price, Qiao Xian had no strong opinion, but she suggested that the prices for different fragrances should vary, all converging around 100 taels. Zhao Shu agreed and promised to discuss it further upon returning to Hangzhou. Price differences ranged from 12 to 34 taels. In any case, this product was precious, and the specific price mattered less. Following that, Zhao Shu shared some news about the Zhao family. After Zhao Mu's second marriage, the Zhao family had become livelier, much to his satisfaction. Qiao Xian also expressed her happiness for him, while advising caution before taking any impulsive actions. Zhao Shu was genuinely grateful. However, he remained resolute in his quest to uncover the truth behind his mother's accidental death, regardless of the difficulties he might encounter. Little did they know that Ms. Qin and Zhao Mu's concubines would soon wreak havoc on the Zhao family, catching them all off guard. This time, Zhao Shu's return was noticeably more relaxed, casual, and indifferent than before. Later, Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan discussed and extended an invitation to Zhao Shu to join them for a meal. Qiao Xian decided to take charge of cooking the food herself. The potatoes in her garden were ripening, and she could begin harvesting them soon. It seemed like the perfect time to dig up some and prepare a meal. On that day, Qiao Xian brought Li Xia and Li Qiu to the field. Initially, the strawberry patch had covered just over 4 acres, but it had expanded significantly due to the continuous growth of stems and vines. The original ridge was now even denser and more lush. This year, Qiao Xian had applied her extraordinary abilities to cultivate an additional 20 mu of land for planting. While each application wasn't substantial, it was enough to keep the strawberries thriving. It appeared that there wouldn't be any issues when it was time to transplant them. Indeed, they would need to keep distributing the seedlings when the time came. However, Qiao Xian knew she had to be careful with her superpowers. She couldn't use them excessively. Otherwise, it might appear quite absurd. For some reason, news had spread about her giving strawberry seedlings to the East Palace. The stewards of the second prince and the third prince had come to her door to express their interest. These individuals were rather arrogant. They clearly wanted a favor but tried to appear indifferent, as if they were merely asking out of curiosity. Their attitude was something Xiao Xian found disdainful. Nonetheless, the strawberry seedlings weren't particularly rare to her. Since they had dropped hints by coming to her, she saw no reason to refuse their requests. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 13-15. Strawberry and Potato. Xiao Xian had initially planned to promote her product, but now it seemed to align perfectly with her intentions. Furthermore, despite the fact that the person who came was just a mid-level manager, these noble households were all concerned about their reputation. They couldn't simply accept her goods for free, so they offered her numerous rewards in return. For instance, in the second prince's residence, there were 2 pouches, each containing a high-quality green jade pendant and a pearl the size of a thumb. In the third prince's residence, they presented her with 2 jars of top-notch Westlake Longjing tea leaves stored in silver tea jars. These cylindrical tea jars had lids, adorned with exquisite Xianxia patterns. Xiao Xian had provided each of them with 100 strawberry seedlings, a fair and equitable exchange. Treating this as a business transaction had proved to be very worthwhile. The adage that the customer is king held true. One shouldn't expect favors from God. After all, it was a matter of goods and money. With these 2 prominent families starting the trend, many other households sent their stewards to inquire. Given the generous rewards from the first 2 families, it was only natural that others wanted to match or surpass them. Even the least generous household presented him with banknotes worth 50 taels. Xiao Xian had already accumulated tens of thousands of taels of silver. She was nearly finished with this round of benefits collection. If anyone else came seeking her strawberry seedlings, she wouldn't part with them so easily. Regardless of the quantity of strawberry seedlings, they would need time to grow. If these people were willing to be patient, Xiao Xian didn't mind making more money, but she had no qualms turning away those who were not. Jinquan Restaurant continued to serve its usual dishes, and the addition of sweet and sour strawberries led to a significant increase in the restaurant's business. Upon arriving at the garden, Xiao Xian gazed at the vibrant red strawberries scattered amidst the lush green leaves. They appeared plump and exquisite, their allure undeniable, and their cuteness irresistibly charming. It was only natural for the noble ladies and their children to be fond of such an endearing fruit. The garden was teeming with these strawberries, each one a potential source of income. Even vendors ventured into the orchard, politely expressing their desire to purchase several acres worth of seedlings at a high price. At that moment, Xiao Xian refrained from making an immediate decision. She stated that she would consider it and, if there were surplus seedlings next year, she wouldn't mind selling them to others. Strawberries possessed remarkable reproductive abilities, especially the ones that had undergone mutations due to her superpowers. With proper care through the winter, they could thrive continuously. In a few years, their novelty would diminish, and the market value would become more standard. Although it wouldn't command the exorbitant prices seen now, the overall profits would remain substantial if cultivated on a larger scale. Xiao Xian instructed Li Xia and Li Qiu to gather 2 baskets of strawberries, one for herself and one for Zhao Shu, while she personally dug up the potatoes. This yielded yet another pleasant surprise. Each potato plant she dug revealed an impressive bounty. The first one yielded 19 potatoes of varying sizes, including 7 that were as large as fists. Apart from 3 that were only slightly bigger than copper coins, the rest were comparable in size to duck eggs. The second plant filled an enormous basket, providing enough for several days' worth of meals. This remarkable outcome was a result of her unique ability and the meticulous care given by Xianxia. Furthermore, this particular potato variety had been enhanced and optimized through her abilities. Even if grown in an ordinary field, producing 7 to 8 duck egg-sized potatoes per plant would be easily achievable. Compared to other crops like corn, taro, peanuts and beans, the yield of these fruits was significantly higher. In times of scarcity, they could potentially be lifesavers. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 13-16. Abundant Production. Xiao Xian felt a deep sense of satisfaction as she looked at the potatoes. Her heart swelled with pride. These were all the fruits of her labor, and in just a year, She had become the sole producer of such a bountiful potato harvest. With such a high production rate and the plans to scale up cultivation on their own land next year, she knew it was crucial to inform the crown prince. Taking credit for it themselves wouldn't be right, so they needed to share the news with the crown prince and request that he report it to the emperor. However, these potatoes were essentially their family's property. Even if they had to contribute a portion to the imperial plantation for seed testing, the majority would remain with their family. In her interspace, Xiao Xian had also harvested some potatoes. When the time was right, she would incorporate them without drawing too much attention to it. After gathering strawberries and potatoes, Xiao Xian and her servant picked a basket of assorted fresh vegetables before heading home. Upon their return, she instructed Qing Yan to send a basket of strawberries to Zhao Shu and extended an invitation for him to join them for dinner the following evening. For tonight's meal, Xiao Xian prepared some spicy shredded potatoes, beef brisket with potatoes, potato pancakes, and 2 other potato-based dishes for Xiao Yunduan. Last year, they could only taste the potatoes sparingly, but this year, there was no need for restraint. They could enjoy them to their heart's content. It truly was a bountiful harvest. As Xiao Xian excitedly shared the news of the abundant potatoes with Xiao Yunduan, his eyes sparkled with astonishment and delight. To make her point even more persuasive, Xiao Xian encouraged him to witness the potatoes for himself, almost as if she were showing off. When Xiao Yunduan saw the basket of potatoes, Xiao Xian jokingly referred to them as 2 fruits, causing him to nearly burst into laughter. Last year, he had heard his wife proudly extol the virtues of their abundant and delicious potatoes, how they could serve as both vegetables and a staple food. Planting them had truly been worth it, she had insisted. However, he hadn't anticipated just how abundant the harvest would be. The difference between hearing about it and witnessing it firsthand was staggering. Hearing about it might elicit surprise, but seeing it left one utterly stunned. In a year of scarcity, these potatoes could potentially save numerous lives. This is incredible. We must discuss how to inform the crown prince, he remarked. There was no way to keep such a matter hidden. Xiao Xian held his arm, raised her chin, and proudly said, "Let's wait a bit longer. We can discuss it when the potatoes look even better and are ready for harvest." These potatoes could remain in the ground for another 500 meters, allowing them to accumulate more starch and improve in quality. There was no need to rush. Xiao Yunduan nodded in agreement. "Then we'll wait a bit longer as you say." Xiao Xian smiled warmly. "I'll try making more dishes to see how they taste. Since it's a bountiful year, you can enjoy as much as you want." Xiao Yunduan grinned. "I'll gladly follow my wife's lead." The following evening, Zhao Shu was invited over for dinner, and several dishes made from potatoes were served. Zhao Shu had grown up in a wealthy family in Jiangnan, a prosperous region with abundant resources, goods, and even access to overseas markets. Despite his extensive knowledge, he had never tasted potatoes before. While there might have been potatoes in Jiangnan, they had never been part of his culinary experience. Zhao Shu was genuinely intrigued by the dishes Xiao Xian had prepared. They tasted exquisite, and when he heard about the potato yield, he was genuinely astonished, despite his limited knowledge of farming. Uncle Qing, who was assisting at the table, couldn't conceal his amazement. The situation seemed almost too unbelievable. Unable to contain himself, he asked Xiao Xian for some potato seeds to plant in the south. Xiao Xian had the same idea in mind when sharing this news, so she readily agreed. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 13-17. They treated us as their own. But let's keep this under wraps for now. We'll discuss it when the time is right, Xiao Xian advised. Zhao Shu, still in a daze, readily agreed. However, Uncle Qing soon recognized the significance of this matter, one that pertained to the welfare of the people, and he understood the importance of keeping it confidential. Lord Xiao and Madame Xiao were implicitly expressing their trust in their master and servant. After dinner, they departed from the Xiao family's residence. Uncle Qing knew that his young master didn't fully grasp the intricacies of the situation, so he proceeded to explain everything in detail. Only then did Zhao Shu fully comprehend the situation. He couldn't help but express his admiration. "If we succeed, Lord Xiao and Madame Xiao will make substantial contributions." Uncle Qing smiled. Indeed, but this is a significant matter, and they may choose not to take credit for it. In my estimation, the recognition will likely go to the East Palace, which is why Madame Xiao advised us not to disclose this to anyone. Zhao Shu nodded, understanding the situation. Lord Xiao and Madame Xiao were not individuals who sought recognition or were foolish enough to claim credit for themselves. However, if they chose to relinquish that recognition, it was evident that it would be attributed to the Crown Prince. Only the Crown Prince could shoulder such responsibilities. But if that's the case, why are you telling us now? Zhao Shu questioned, puzzled. Uncle Qing looked at him with a sigh of disbelief. Fortunately, Zhao Shu wasn't obtuse. He exclaimed joyfully, Uncle Qing, does this mean that Lord Xiao and Madame Xiao are treating us like family? Uncle Qing smiled and nodded. That's wonderful. Zhao Shu couldn't contain his excitement, rubbing his hands together in sheer delight. Uncle Qing smiled and shook his head, offering a gentle reminder. Young master, even though that's true, there are still some matters that must be approached with caution. Zhao Shu smiled somewhat sheepishly and nodded, saying, Don't worry, Uncle Qing. I understand. Evidently, Zhao Shu was quite content to enjoy the spectacle unfolding within the Zhao family, so he didn't linger in the capital for long. He shared 2 meals with Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan, stayed for 5 days, and then departed for the south with high spirits. In addition to his interest in witnessing the ongoing drama, the perfume workshop was also at a crucial stage, which required his vigilant oversight. With just over 50 bottles, it amounted to more than 50,000 taels of silver, effectively covering the entire workshop's investment costs. The next batch was expected to yield at least 100 bottles, recovering all the initial expenditures and turning a profit. The business arrangement offered a generous 40-60 split, a mutually rewarding venture that Zhao Shu found quite enticing. Indeed, such a business was truly captivating. Qiao Xian had initially planned to travel to the south to inspect the progress of her 20,000 mu of fertile land and visit the flower fields in Hangzhou, ensuring the plants could withstand the winter and thrive. She also intended to make a stop at the 100,000 mu mulberry garden along the way. However, half a month later, Prince Nua would lead a delegation to meet the Emperor of Great Qin. The Crown Prince and the Third Prince were tasked with hosting him, and Xiao Yunduan, as the Crown Prince's trusted confidant, had to stand by the Crown Prince's side to assist. Xiao Yunduan had planned to discreetly request the Crown Prince's permission to accompany Qiao Xian on her journey south, but he had to abandon the idea. Qiao Xian wasn't afraid of rumors, but she had earned a reputation as a possessive woman, making it inappropriate for her to venture south alone while leaving Xiao Yunduan behind. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 13:18. The Crown Prince. While Qiao Xian wasn't concerned about people accusing her of jealousy, a bit of apprehension lingered in her mind. Regrettably, she had to reluctantly shelve her short-term plans for now. Once the current matter was resolved, she would arrange another trip before the new year. Seeing her disappointed expression, Xiao Yunduan couldn't help but chuckle. He playfully pinched her cheek and reassured her with a gentle smile, saying, Don't worry, I'll accompany you before the new year. We can enjoy the early autumn scenery by the South River, and if we're quick, we might set off in late autumn. Qiao Xian's face brightened with happiness. That sounds wonderful. Jiangnan must have its own unique charm in the early autumn and winter. And not to mention, there should be plenty of crabs. Qiao Xian had been concerned that circumstances might change. Obtaining leave was no easy feat for civil servants nowadays, especially when it meant leaving the capital. Xiao Yunduan was highly regarded in the East Palace, and any departure could raise suspicions of secret dealings or political maneuvering. With these thoughts in mind, Qiao Xian hesitated. She gently tugged at Xiao Yunduan's sleeve, looking up at him as she proposed, How about, you don't go? I can go on my own. We can simply inform them that I've gone to a nunnery to partake in vegetarian meals and pray for blessings. I won't be back for a while. Better yet, we don't need to provide any explanation at all. In truth, she wasn't a prominent figure, and her absence for a month or two wouldn't raise many questions. The only person who truly cared about her was her husband. However, Xiao Yunduan wasn't inclined to agree. As far as he was concerned, if they could be together, then they should be together. He had no desire to leave his wife, particularly in this season. Returning to an empty room at night and sleeping alone was a prospect he found quite uncomfortable. Having his wife by his side, even if they simply embraced each other and drifted off to sleep, made for a much more restful slumber. Xiao Yunduan smiled and reassured her, "Don't worry, as soon as I mention it, the Crown Prince will make the necessary arrangements for us. There are plenty of tasks that need attention in the south before the new year, so we can be assigned one of them." Qiao Xian was momentarily surprised, but then she playfully tapped her forehead, suddenly realizing the solution. "I can't believe I overlooked that." They exchanged smiles. Indeed, Xiao Yunduan could contribute to the Crown Prince's coffers during his trip to Jiangnan before the new year. Like every household, the East Palace had its own substantial expenses to cover before the Lunar New Year. It was an annual endeavor filled with meticulous planning and, at times, even involved diverting resources from one area to another. Few could fathom the extent of their financial struggles. It wasn't that the emperor didn't know how to reward his people. However, the rewards typically consisted of valuable antiques, luxurious clothing, exquisite brocades, and exotic tributes from around the world. Silver, on the other hand, was often limited to a mere 1,000 taels, which was far from sufficient. The East Palace had to maintain its prestige, but their assets couldn't be pawned or sold. If news of such actions were to circulate, it would be a great embarrassment for the Crown Prince. Accusations and petitions would flood the imperial court like falling snow. This year, Xiao Yunduan had discreetly provided 350,000 taels of silver to the East Palace, which had significantly bolstered the Crown Prince's financial standing. It allowed him to undertake endeavors that had previously been beyond his reach. The Crown Prince was delighted with the newfound resources at his disposal. Now, as the new year approached, whenever Xiao Yunduan hinted at the need to travel south to earn money, the Crown Prince would undoubtedly arrange everything for him. After all, who would willingly choose a life of comfort when there were opportunities to make substantial gains? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 13-19. Looking at industries in the suburbs. While Qiao Xian had forgotten about this detail, Xiao Yunduan had not. Her excitement was palpable. It wasn't a matter of having a poor memory. Rather, she hadn't taken this matter very seriously. Although she had contributed 350,000 taels of silver to the Crown Prince, it was essentially a portion of the 300,000 taels she had originally given him, transferred directly from Zhao Shu. The additional 50,000 taels was a dividend from the perfume workshop that hadn't cost her anything. In contrast, Zhao Shu's finances had seen a significant boost since the previous year. Qiao Xian hadn't attached much importance to the 350,000 taels of silver, as it didn't affect her significantly, so she hadn't considered this matter until now. Finally, it dawned on her. Of course, as a couple working for the Crown Prince, a trip to Jiangnan should be arranged without any fuss. Qiao Xian even contemplated whether the lack of retaliation from the fourth princess consort after their public confrontation was orchestrated by the East Palace. After all, the fourth princess consort didn't strike her as a magnanimous person. Considering these factors, Qiao Xian concluded that earning money for the Crown Prince might not be such a bad idea after all. Since she had the opportunity to travel to the south before the new year, the exact timing didn't matter to her anymore. With Xianxia already overseeing the 1,200 mues of land in Cloudwater Town, Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan decided to visit the town together, as Xiao Yunduan would be occupied in the next 2 to 3 days. Upon arriving at the Xiao family's farm in Cloudwater Town, they were greeted by a spacious and well-lit main courtyard. Several magnolia, sweet osmanthus, and pomegranate trees adorned the yard, while local persimmon, walnut, peach, and other trees were planted outside, all according to Qiao Xian's preferences. Beyond the main courtyard, the servants' quarters, warehouses, and storage rooms were all thoughtfully organized and constructed. The tenant houses were situated on the outermost perimeter of the property. Rows of standardized small courtyard houses, all constructed with green bricks, created a neat and orderly appearance. Even the ground was paved with green bricks, maintaining a clean and well-kept appearance. Each courtyard house was surrounded by structures on 3 sides, with the main building being a uniform 2-story structure. These courtyards, while modest in size, were equipped with all the essential amenities. All of this had been constructed based on Xiao Xian's specifications. Xianxia initially thought it was an unnecessary expense and overly generous to the tenants, but he complied with Xiao Xian's wishes. What Xiao Xian didn't reveal was her underlying rationale. She didn't need to be overly thrifty in this endeavor. Creating a well-organized and aesthetically pleasing farm not only simplified its management but also fostered a sense of belonging among the tenants, contributing to long-term development. Moreover, the relatively minor expenses incurred could be recuperated easily. In the coming year, Xiao Xian planned to employ her superpowers to enhance the production and quality of watermelons, cantaloupes, and potatoes. Selling these improved fruits and vegetables at a favorable price would quickly offset the investment. His diligence and unwillingness to cut corners left Xiao Xian very satisfied. At the very least, he had passed the initial test of being in charge. He demonstrated a capacity to execute orders with precision and efficiency. Taking in the scene, Xianxia met with the servants in the main hall. Chapter 1320. Meeting someone. The population was not yet fully settled, but they had already acquired 12 servants through contracts and had secured 10 tenants. Xianxia couldn't help but feel a bit nervous. Before stepping inside, he hurriedly offered a smile and said, "This servant has never handled such affairs before. Though I did consult with young Master Zhao's family steward, I'm afraid there may be aspects I haven't managed well. If the master and madam are not pleased with anyone I've acquired, I will sell them off. In the future, I will make more careful choices and pick out the better ones." "Don't be anxious," Xiao Xian reassured him with a smile. "There's an old saying that goes, people are unpredictable, and it's true. No one can guarantee that every purchase will be perfect. I can see that you haven't been neglectful, and if you choose to focus on it later, you can take your time when you gain more experience." Xiao Yunduan chimed in jest. "You usually exude such confidence and poise, so why are you so jittery now? Rest assured, my wife and I won't be overly critical of your choices." Relieved, Xianxia let out a sigh and his ingratiating smile became more genuine. Yes. I understand that the master and madam are kind-hearted individuals." Next, the farmers they had purchased were summoned. There were a total of 12 individuals. 5 women and 7 men. Among them, 5 were families, and 2 children were under the age of 10. Meeting their true masters for the first time, the 12 of them were far more nervous and uneasy than Xianxia. As a few of them entered, they moved stiffly, as if they were all walking in unison. Even the 2 children under the age of 10 displayed remarkable poise and maturity. Held by their mothers on either side, they were obedient and shy, casting their eyes downward. Adorned in the clean new clothing provided by Xiao Xian, they appeared neat and presentable. Since it was their first encounter, Xiao Xian took the lead, engaging in a conversation with the head of the family, Xiao Yunduan. It was a traditional societal norm for the head of a family to be a man. When Xiao Yunduan began addressing them, they would naturally show reverence. Initiating the conversation, Xiao Xian could have caused some individuals to be taken aback, perceiving the family as unruly, which might lead to further issues. Xiao Yunduan was a man of few words, and as he looked at each of them, he had a favorable impression, indicating that Xianxia had made careful selections. He posed a few straightforward questions, offered some advice, and then Xiao Xian reassured them with a warm smile, distributed their rewards, and concluded the meeting. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief and gratefully received their rewards before departing respectfully. Given that they could purchase numerous plots of land, it was evident that the family was affluent. Upon their arrival, they were given exceptional treatment, with ample meals, new clothing, comfortable accommodations, regular meat and fish in their diets, and even a monthly salary. All of which exceeded the expectations of ordinary families. Manager Xianxia had mentioned that if the master was unsatisfied, they would not be allowed to stay. However, when they paid their respects to the master, not everyone was anxious. They had successfully cleared this stage, and their relief was palpable. Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan exchanged knowing glances, sharing the same perspective. However, they recognized that the true situation would become clearer in time. Xiao Xian only mentioned that the current 12 individuals were insufficient. They needed to acquire 7 or 8 more. They had to make these arrangements carefully and avoid any missteps. Especially in the upcoming year, as they cultivated potatoes, watermelons and cantaloupes, they would need to be vigilant in overseeing and protecting the crops. Chapter 13:21. Staying for the time being. They decided to purchase a few more intelligent dogs to rear in the future, which would prove beneficial for their patrols. Considering the vast expanse of land, constructing a tall wall using green bricks was an unfeasible endeavor. At most, they could enclose certain areas, and some spots were simply challenging to fence off. When it came to planting potatoes, there was little cause for concern. If someone was unfamiliar with them or lacked knowledge, they were less likely to become targets. However, fruits like watermelons and cantaloupes were highly sought after and therefore prone to theft. Unless every family in the village planted them, these fruits would be pilfered no matter where they were grown. If villagers occasionally plucked one or two to satisfy their cravings, it was tolerable. However, vigilance and patrolling were essential, as failure to do so would result in more than just a few missing fruits. Furthermore, they needed to ensure they had a variety of farming tools on hand, including plows, cattle, iron plows, and iron rakes. Xianxia mentioned that he had already signed 10 contracts with tenants, but it seemed insufficient. Before the new year arrived, he planned to visit reliable individuals and secure an additional 5 contracts with strong laborers, which should be adequate. Xianxia nodded, carefully recording the details one by one, before allowing the tenants to enter and meet with him. The tenants living in the small green brick courtyard were similar to the farmers, exhibiting timidity and nervousness. They were apprehensive that any disagreement with their boss could lead to their eviction. With no shortage of potential tenants, competition among them was fierce, and the landlord had the power to dismiss them unilaterally. Given the excellent living conditions provided by their generous landlord, there was little reason to seek accommodation elsewhere. Being tenants in another household would necessitate building their own houses. Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan greeted everyone as usual, offering a few brief words of advice on maintaining good behavior and fulfilling their duties. During their employment, individuals could retain their positions as long as they performed well. Those who did not meet the expected standards risked termination by year-end. Finding suitable replacements was not a concern. The constant threat of dismissal kept most employees from taking any impulsive actions. Qiao Xian believed that the terms offered to the tenants were quite enticing. As long as they possessed some level of competence and aspired to lead a respectable life, they were unlikely to jeopardize their employment. Leaving the fields fallow was not an option, and it provided an opportunity for cultivation. Additionally, it allowed Xianxia to gain experience. In the following year, they intended to cultivate potatoes, watermelons, and other crops. Familiarity with these crops would reduce their management worries. After all, Qiao Xian planned to return to Shaoding village and head south in the spring. Enhancing her superpower was vital for the growth of the mulberry garden and flower fields. It was an investment. Her ability to harness and manifest her superpower depended on this development. So, Qiao Xian discussed with Xiao Yunduan and requested that Xianxia organize the tenants to cultivate 500 mu of cabbage and 300 mu of white radishes, which had a shorter growth cycle. With Qiao Xian's superpower, they could reduce the growth time by 10 days, 8 days, or even half a month. These seemingly small time savings held significant advantages in the market. Furthermore, vegetables nurtured by her superpower were not only tastier but also of higher quality and longer shelf life. In winter, the capital's residents particularly valued carrots and cabbages. They wouldn't have to worry about sales when the time came. Even if they couldn't be sold immediately, they could transform the surplus cabbages into spicy pickled cabbage, and white radishes into dried radishes, allowing for gradual sales. Xianxia, eager to keep busy during the winter, readily agreed when he heard the plan. "Don't worry, old master and madam. I will make all the necessary arrangements diligently. I will oversee daily operations, handle vegetable cultivation, hire and manage labor, acquire farming equipment, tend to the cattle, erect fences, plow the fields, and everything else. Nothing will be left unattended. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 13:22. Half a day in the mountain. Qiao Xian spoke with a warm smile. "We have a lot to discuss, but if you're too busy, just let me know, and I'll have Qingyan assist you with any errands. We have plenty of time, so there's no need to rush." Xianxia, ready to carry out his responsibilities, couldn't allow Qing Yan to step in. He couldn't even consider it. "I can handle it myself, madam. Please don't worry." Xiao Xian nodded, still smiling, and didn't press the matter further. In the upcoming year, Xiao Xian planned to plant a variety of fruit trees, including pomegranates, persimmons, grapes, apples, peaches, loquats, walnuts, dates, pears, hawthorns, and more. If she weren't concerned about drawing too much attention, she would have included dragon eyes, lychees, mangoes, and grapefruits. Nevertheless, even if she couldn't plant them all, she had them in her interspace. She also intended to raise chickens, ducks, geese, and possibly a few more goats if conditions allowed. This would provide a steady supply of eggs, meat, and even goat's milk. With poultry and livestock, they could be largely self-sufficient. Living in the capital wouldn't mean they lacked vegetables and meat. Since the main courtyard wasn't yet fully furnished, Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan prepared to depart. However, it was still early, and Xiao Xian wanted to take a hike in the nearby mountains. Autumn, especially in the advanced season, was the perfect time for mountain hikes. If we're lucky, we might stumble upon some mushrooms in the mountains. There tend to be more mushrooms in the northern forests during autumn, and they're usually plump. With her presence, good luck was almost guaranteed. Xiao Yunduan smiled and agreed. "Sounds like a plan. Let's enjoy lunch here before heading up the mountain. We can ask Lixia and Liqiu to prepare a bowl of noodles." It had already been half a day, and going up the mountain on an empty stomach was out of the question. Xiao Xian agreed with a smile and requested Lixia and Liqiu to use the servants' kitchen to prepare some food. Although there was a kitchen for the master in the main courtyard, it had not been fully furnished yet. Everything was still in the process of being set up, and Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan planned to stay here for a few days. Before long, Lixia and Liqiu arrived with freshly rolled noodles, which were slender and pale, emitting a tempting aroma. There wasn't any broth, but there was meat, minced and stir-fried with garlic, green onions, and chili. The dish was garnished with a handful of coriander, and when served, it was steaming hot and fragrant. The two of them enjoyed their meal, and then Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan prepared to carry a basket and head up the mountain. Lixia and Liqiu had become accustomed to this routine. They knew the old master didn't want them to be a bother. However, Qing Yan felt a bit uneasy. He couldn't help but quietly ask his two sisters, "Sister Lixia, Sister Liqiu, isn't it risky for the old master and madam to go up the mountain alone? We could assist by carrying the basket for them. If the terrain is challenging, we could scout ahead." Lixia burst into laughter. "You're very clever and thoughtful, but there's no need to worry so much. The old master and madam enjoy mountain climbing, and they prefer doing it on their own." Liqiu chimed in, smiling. "Our old master and madam are quite strong. If they say they don't need help, then they don't. Let's just stay here and enjoy the peace of this manor. It's quite nice to explore around." Upon hearing their reassurance, Qing Yan smiled and felt relieved. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1323. Diplomatic Delegation of Qingdi. He was just a playful teenager, and before long, he had vanished into the surroundings. Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan walked briskly, enjoying the pleasant autumn weather. Neither too hot nor too cold. As they entered the mountains, the cool, shaded air enveloped them, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves. The vibrant hues of autumn foliage, bathed in sunlight, added to their sense of relaxation. The two of them conversed and laughed, quickly reaching the middle of the mountain. Here they found themselves in a diverse forest, with pine, cypress, birch, yellowwood, red maple, linden, blackwood, locust, luan, yellow poplar trees, and various wild fruit trees, shrubs, and vines all intermingling in an organized manner. Such a forest provided the perfect environment for various wild mountain mushrooms to flourish. When Xiao Xian activated her superpower, even mushrooms cleverly concealed amidst the foliage were easily discovered. Before they realized it, their baskets were already half filled with a variety of mushrooms, each boasting different appearances and sizes but all exuding a fresh and delightful aroma. When cooked, they promised to deliver exceptional flavors. This should suffice for a few days' worth of meals. Tonight, Well, stew some with chicken, stir-fry a plate with beef. Tomorrow at noon, well, combine them with pork and shrimp to make stuffed buns. Tomorrow night, well, use the chicken to prepare a clear soup hot pot, and simultaneously, well, create a spicy hot pot. It's been a while since we've had hot pot. Xiao Xian laid out her plans with a smile. Xiao Yunduan agreed, placing the basket in a nearby bush and guiding Xiao Xian to sit under the shade of a tree. The view here is splendid, and the ambience is wonderful too. Let's linger a bit longer. They stayed on the mountain until the shadows grew longer, and a chill began to set in. Eventually, they tidied up their belongings and basked in the warmth of the setting sun as they descended the mountain and returned to the city. That evening, they prepared a savory stew of old hen and fresh mushrooms. Its aroma wafted far and wide, and the soup was nothing short of exquisite. Xiao Xian couldn't help but think that owning a manor in a distant place away from the capital would be a fantastic idea. There, amidst numerous mountains and treasures, they could relish the joys of culinary exploration to their heart's content. In the following days, Xiao Yunduan found himself immersed in a whirlwind of activity. The arrival of the diplomatic delegation from Qingdi was fast approaching, with the delegation expected to reach the capital 5 to 6 days earlier than originally planned. This abrupt change significantly compressed the already tight preparation schedule. Government officials and everyone involved in the matter found themselves tirelessly occupied, their tasks keeping them constantly on the move. While Qingdi was a vassal state in the northern region, it held considerable influence. What made it unique was its historically strong and amicable relationship with the Great Qin Empire. The emperor attached great importance to the upcoming diplomatic delegation from Qingdi, going so far as to express a desire to host them exceptionally well. This, despite his focus on alchemy and politics. The crown prince, the third prince, and others dared not disregard these instructions. Furthermore, the Qin dynasty was known for its prosperity and tranquility, and it prided itself on being a mighty nation. Any misstep in entertaining the Qingdi delegation could tarnish the reputation of the empire. They couldn't bear the thought of embarrassment, even if Qingdi didn't openly criticize them. The crown prince would undoubtedly bear the brunt of the blame in such a scenario, potentially facing impeachment once more. The fourth prince had been biding his time, refraining from making any overt moves. While the crown prince had enjoyed a comfortable life as a result, it was common knowledge that the fourth prince and honored princess Mei harbored no intentions of giving up. Meanwhile, the second and third princes kept a watchful eye on the unfolding political drama, poised to seize any opportunity for personal gain. They might have appeared to play their part dutifully, but they were ready to take advantage of the internal strife without hesitation or restraint. Chapter 1324. Busy treating. When it came to hosting foreign diplomatic missions, it was only fitting for the crown prince to take charge, a duty that also reaffirmed his stable status as the crown prince. Declining this responsibility was not an option for the crown prince. Even if the emperor harbored dislike for him, he would have seized this opportunity. Given the circumstances, there was no ideal solution. The only course of action was to make every effort to excel in this role and remain vigilant against the third prince's schemes. Finally, on September 11th, Prince Nua of Qingdi arrived in the capital with nearly 300 individuals in tow. The crown prince instructed the third prince to lead officials from the Ministry of Rights, Ministry of Revenue, Honglu Monastery, and the East Palace to go outside the city to welcome Prince Nua and his entourage. The crown prince himself, attired in full court regalia, assembled the two princes and a retinue of civil and military officials to establish a ceremonial guard within the intermediate court, awaiting their arrival. As the crown prince, it was not deemed necessary for him to personally greet the Prince of Qingdi outside the city. As for the Qi Xian Emperor, he held little interest in Prince Nua. With the crown prince acting as the host, all that mattered was that he didn't compromise the nation's dignity. His primary focus remained on cultivating his body and mind, refining elixirs, and seeking immortality. On that day, a grand banquet took place in the palace, with the crown prince hosting Prince Nua. Xiao Yunduan also attended the event, returning home late that night. Upon entering the room, Xiao Xian was already awake. She mumbled a few words in her drowsiness, and upon seeing him get into bed, she snuggled into his arms and fell back asleep. Xiao Yunduan chuckled, placing kisses on her cheeks and forehead. He felt content and soon drifted off to sleep himself. The following morning, Xiao Xian awoke to find Xiao Yunduan had already left. She smiled and shook her head. Lately, the entire capital was abuzz with discussions about Prince Nua's visit to pay his respects. Previously, Qingdi and Shifan had been locked in a fierce conflict, with the towns along the northern border of the Great Qin Empire feeling the brunt of the hostilities. The three factions even engaged in several battles. However, Qingdi later extended a hand of goodwill to the Great Qin Empire. With their support, they effectively defeated Shifan, pushing them even farther away. This led to a significant increase in Qingdi's strength and territorial expansion. Initially, Qingdi was deeply appreciative of the Great Qin Empire's assistance and fostered a strong rapport with them. Yet, over time, Qingdi's arrogance resurfaced, resulting in provocations against the Great Qin Empire and the looming threat of renewed conflict. Only when old king of Qingdi's health deteriorated, and the younger princes proved to be formidable counterparts to the Great Qin Empire, did both sides inexplicably reach a state of reconciliation and peace. However, for the past decade, Qingdi had not sent a diplomatic mission to the Great Qin Empire. Now that a delegation had finally arrived, purportedly to pay respects to the Great Qin Emperor and offer tribute, the sense of pride within the Great Qin Empire was palpable, particularly among the capital's residents. This pride ran deep in their veins, leading to an increase in discussions on this matter. Given these circumstances, the Crown Prince and his entourage, responsible for hosting Qingdi and their delegation, could ill afford any errors. Failure to meet public expectations would not only disappoint the commoners but also risk accusations of the Crown Prince neglecting the nation's dignity, an attribute that a ruler must maintain without reproach. In the Eastern Palace, everyone, including the Crown Prince's faction, was on high alert and exceedingly cautious, fearing any misstep. Their lives were far from easy, and the pressure weighed heavily upon them. Even Xiao Xian, normally active and outgoing, had recently adopted a low profile. She seldom ventured outside, even refraining from grocery shopping. Instead, she delegated these tasks to Li Xia and others, preferring to maintain a discreet presence. Chapter 1325. Princess Consort Summoning. Xiao Xian went to Cloudwater Town to emphasize to Xianxia the importance of avoiding conflicts at all costs, regardless of the circumstances. She stressed that in situations where progress was challenging, there was no need to rush or become anxious. When faced with difficulties or peculiar situations, Xianxia must remember not to make decisions independently but rather report them. Every aspect of their daily operations needed to be meticulously managed and handled with great care. There was a saying that even a 1,000-mile dam could be destroyed by an ant's nest. Failure to catch mistakes at the East Palace could potentially lead to a situation where they slowly and insidiously orchestrated issues from a small scale, eventually implicating the East Palace or even the Crown Prince. Such occurrences had transpired in the past. Regardless, Xiao Xian was determined not to make any mistakes. However, she hadn't anticipated that Princess Consort would send for her to visit the East Palace. Auntie Fu, who was accompanying Princess Consort, didn't appear to be in great spirits either. Xiao Xian grew anxious and inquired about the situation. Auntie Fu wore a bitter smile as she replied, "Madam Xiao, please don't worry. It's not a major issue, but it's also not particularly significant. Madam Xiao, please accompany me to the East Palace, and you will learn all the details when you meet with Princess Consort." Although Auntie Fu's response didn't provide a clear answer, she conveyed that the matter was not serious. Xiao Xian trusted Auntie Fu's judgment. "Very well, I'll trust your judgment," Xiao Xian replied with a relieved smile. Auntie Fu smiled back, relieved that she hadn't pushed for further details. Xiao Xian was received by Princess Consort in the daily living area. She couldn't help but notice the initial frown on Princess Consort's face upon her arrival, indicating that she held some reservations about her. However, Xiao Xian couldn't fathom how she had managed to offend Princess Consort, considering she hadn't even left the house for a while. Princess Consort greeted her and offered her a seat. "We're on the same side, so there's no need for formalities," Princess Consort began. "Ms. Qiao, Prince of Qingdi has requested a few specific dishes, and our imperial chefs are at a loss. We heard that you possess culinary skills, and am uncertain whether you can provide a solution. If you can, we would greatly appreciate it. If not, Auntie Fu, please provide her with the details." Princess Consort sighed and rubbed her temples, appearing somewhat distressed. The court, the East Palace, and the nobility had enlisted the finest cooks in the world, but none had managed to devise a solution. Princess Consort harbored doubts that Xian could achieve what others could not. The crown prince didn't know who had suggested involving Xian, but it seemed like a last-ditch effort. Yet, what other options were available apart from this final attempt? The Great Qin Empire was renowned for its abundant resources and capabilities. Yet, Prince of Qingdi had merely requested a few dishes and remained unsatisfied. It was a situation that left no room for embarrassment. The Great Qin Empire couldn't afford to lose face, and neither could the crown prince. The origins of this issue were not particularly complex. The Great Qin Empire valued etiquette and extended warm hospitality to Prince Nua and the delegation, as per their customs. However, such niceties were not well received by the uncivilized and proud state of Qingdi. Initially, they may have held some fear and reverence towards the Great Qin Empire. However, the empire's graciousness and hospitality inadvertently fueled their arrogance. The sheer opulence of the Great Qin Empire only heightened their envy and amplified their pride, making the situation even more awkward. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1326. Acting Insatiably. Coincidentally, the drill ground competition that took place 2 days prior had traditionally been Qingdi's forte. Their diplomatic mission had approached the event with an air of anticipation, eager to showcase their prowess by besting the generals of the Great Qin Empire. They aimed to demonstrate their might and strength to the Great Qin Empire. However, could the Great Qin Empire possibly lose such a competition? Would the empire compromise its dignity? Even though the Qingdi representatives were courageous, formidable, and robust, did the Great Qin Empire lack exceptional soldiers of its own? Was it possible that such talent couldn't be found within the ranks of the Great Qin Empire? The outcome was quite evident. The Qingdi participants, brimming with valor and enthusiasm, suffered a resounding defeat. They couldn't find any excuses for their loss, which only added to their frustration. The crown prince, displaying benevolence, couldn't bear to witness their crushing defeat. He discreetly ordered his side to yield, preventing an excessively humiliating defeat. Yet, it didn't sit well with anyone. Every participant was a skilled expert who recognized their opponent's concession. This knowledge left them even more aggrieved and disheartened. Prince Nua, in particular, wore a grim expression, his anger unvented. In an attempt to mollify their guests, the crown prince hosted a banquet that evening, displaying even more enthusiasm. Qingdi maintained an amicable relationship with the Great Qin Empire, and the peaceful border allowed commoners to lead peaceful lives. Nobody desired a war. The crown prince aimed to foster friendship and goodwill, and he had no intentions of causing embarrassment to their guests. However, the Qingdi delegates regarded such diplomatic gestures as pretentiousness. They failed to recognize the dignity of a great nation and lacked magnanimity. Instead, they perceived the empire's hospitality as arrogance. Furthermore, as the Great Qin Empire grew increasingly polite, it only deepened their feelings of frustration and resentment. During the banquet that evening, Qingdi's deputy envoy, Deci, caused a stir by presenting a list of dishes he expected Great Qin's chefs to prepare. This situation threatened to embarrass the crown prince. However, it was Xiao Yunduan who casually diffused the tension by saying, "It's getting late. I'll have everything ready for you in a couple of days." He nonchalantly pushed the issue aside. Prince Nua chuckled and agreed, expressing his eagerness to savor these dishes. The situation appeared to be a guaranteed success. Following that, the crown prince instructed everyone to brainstorm their own ideas and consult the chefs in their respective residences who might be able to solve this culinary challenge. The reward mentioned by the crown prince was no ordinary reward. It amounted to at least 500 taels of silver and perhaps even 2 priceless antiques, a significant honor. Everyone coveted this honor. Yet, none could readily fulfill it. The crown prince and others didn't find this strange at all. It was clear that Vice Envoy Deci, Prince Nua, and the rest weren't seeking fresh and unique dishes. They were deliberately making things difficult. The deliberate nature of their challenge made it a formidable task to resolve. This situation was primarily the third prince's fault. He had hastily boasted about the abundance of delicacies in Great Qin and their capability to prepare any dish, only to be outmaneuvered by Vice Envoy de Cis' single remark. The third prince subsequently distanced himself from the situation, feigning ignorance and disassociation. He passed the responsibility to the crown prince. Left with no other choice, the crown prince had to accept the challenge, transforming it into a difficult dilemma. The prince was discussing with his staff and confidants. One of them mentioned Xiao Xian, saying that Madame Xiao was very smart and she was very good at cooking, and she might be able to solve the problem. He might as well ask Madame Xiao. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1327. Unconcerned. Xiao Yunduan enjoyed high regard from the crown prince, and many of the crown prince's ministers and advisors held him in high esteem. Nevertheless, a few individuals harbored jealousy and sought to undermine him, actively seeking opportunities to cause trouble. What Xiao Yunduan was unaware of was that his words had struck a chord. Xiao Xian's reputation had flourished when she revived the only peony flowers in the palace and introduced strawberries to the capital, quickly becoming a favored fruit among the ladies and children. Such achievements were not easily attainable for ordinary women. More importantly, the crown prince had come to know that Xiao Xian was not only capable but also skilled at generating income. Xiao Yunduan had made it explicitly clear that all the wealth from the south had been earned by Xiao Xian. Hearing these words, the crown prince, sensing a glimmer of hope in a dire situation, agreed, saying, "Indeed, Madame Xiao should give it a try." Internally, Xiao Yunduan cursed those colleagues who harbored ill will toward him and seemed perpetually determined to create difficulties. However, the crown prince's response had been swift, leaving Xiao Yunduan with no opportunity to object. In an attempt to set the record straight, Xiao Yunduan stated, "Ms. Qiao is fortunate to receive such high regard from the crown prince, but she is not particularly knowledgeable. Her expertise lies in gardening and farming, and in cooking, she is only slightly more skilled than the average person. While she enjoys cooking, she does not possess the culinary prowess of the imperial chefs or other professional cooks. Crown Prince, please pardon her if her efforts fall short." Xiao Yunduan felt compelled to articulate these concerns. The Crown Prince responded with a smile, saying, "Certainly, we are merely exploring possibilities. We acknowledge our lack of expertise in the culinary arts, so Madame Xiao may bring a fresh perspective to the table." Xiao Yunduan continued with modesty, attempting to shield Xiao Xian from any further involvement. If possible, he preferred that Xiao Xian not become entangled in these matters. Since Xiao Xian was a woman, it was not appropriate for the Crown Prince to directly involve her. Xiao Yunduan couldn't leave either, so he arranged for someone to inform Princess Consort about the situation. Princess Consort promptly instructed Auntie Fu to bring Xiao Xian to the East Palace. Despite feeling bewildered and somewhat dissatisfied, she couldn't help but think that the Crown Prince had lost his sense of propriety in his anxiety. Could Miss Qiao's culinary skills really address such a serious matter? Princess Consort harbored doubts. The Crown Prince held Xiao Yunduan in high regard, which extended to Xiao Xian. However, Princess Consort had reservations about Ms. Qiao's abilities. Princess Consort assumed that the Crown Prince's affection for Xiao Yunduan had led him to overestimate Ms. Qiao's capabilities. She wasn't entirely convinced. Nevertheless, as the Crown Prince's wife, she felt obligated to follow his instructions and decided to call Xiao Yunduan over to inquire further, even though she believed it might be unnecessary. Auntie Fu didn't provide Xiao Xian with the full details but simply informed her that Prince of Qingdi had requested a few dishes and seemed to be deliberately causing difficulties. Given her reputation for culinary skills, she wondered if she had any ideas for resolving the situation. Xiao Xian was taken aback. She couldn't recall ever boasting about her cooking skills. She believed that her husband, Xiao Yunduan, would never praise her in such a manner. He preferred that she remained inconspicuous, and he would avoid drawing attention to her whenever possible. In the capital city, it seemed that no secrets could be kept for long. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1328. Qingdi making things difficult. Auntie Fu exclaimed, The first dish is a concoction of both chicken and fish, each prepared in a unique way. The second dish offers a delightful contrast of flavors, both cold and hot. Now, the third dish is a live braised carp. Xian, who had been quietly shocked all along, couldn't hide her surprise when she heard about the live braised carp, turning to Auntie Fu instinctively. Auntie Fu sighed and explained, "It's not your typical braised carp. It's a carp that remains alive even after the braising process." Xian was left speechless. Who would have thought that Qingdi, often criticized for their perceived lack of manners, could also display such culinary sophistication? It was clear that if they didn't know what they were doing, they wouldn't have attempted something so extraordinary. Princess Consort couldn't contain her frustration, even though she was already aware of the situation. Qingdi has gone too far. Their behavior is utterly unreasonable and absurd. I observed that the Crown Prince acted with kindness and patience, deliberately avoiding any conflict, Auntie Fu added. Xian nodded in agreement. Exactly. As the Crown Prince, he must exhibit benevolence and tolerance, even in the face of deliberate provocation. He has no choice but to accept it, no matter how challenging it may be. Failure to do so would diminish his stature as the Crown Prince. Auntie Fu agreed. Indeed, it is the Crown Prince's responsibility to maintain his composure in such situations. The fault lies not with him but with those who seek to test his mettle. Princess Consort remained silent, her anger still simmering beneath the surface. Auntie Fu, sensing Xian might feel neglected, tried to divert the conversation. Madam Xiao, those Qingdi individuals can be quite troublesome. Do you have any suggestions on how to handle this situation? Xian pondered for a moment before responding. Considering that Qingdi's intention seems to be to find fault rather than truly appreciate our cuisine, our goal should be to present them with dishes they cannot fault. If we succeed in this, the matter should resolve itself. Princess Consort sneered, wearing a displeased expression. Everyone is well aware of that. His implication was clear. There was no need for him to state the obvious. Xian's smile returned as she continued, I have a plan regarding the 1,000 chickens and 1,000 fish dishes. Auntie Fu was delighted, but Princess Consort's frown deepened, cautioning, This is a matter of great diplomatic importance between our two nations. Let us not act impulsively, for we risk becoming a subject of ridicule and diminishing the Crown Prince's standing. We should not attempt to create a dish with exactly 1,000 chickens and fish. Such an endeavor might lead to accusations of deceit, tarnishing Great Qing's reputation, Princess Consort added, her words halting before she could fully express herself. Perhaps she had not intended for Xian to provide her insights in the first place. Without the Crown Prince's involvement, Xian might have refrained from speaking further. Princess Consort, rest assured, I won't be careless. For the 1,000 chickens, we will take a single chicken claw from each of the 1,000 chickens, and for the 1,000 fish, we will use one whisker from each fish. This way, we can create the dish while ensuring transparency. I'll instruct the chefs to handle the ingredients meticulously, and we will maintain a record of every raw material used. If Prince of Qingdi and his delegation harbor any doubts, they can inspect the ingredients individually to verify our honesty. I guarantee that we won't cut corners, Xian reassured with confidence. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1329. Trick. Princess Consort and Auntie Fu were taken aback. Auntie Fu hastily inquired, Treasure in the palm? What does that mean? Xian explained with a smile, shedding light on her idea. Auntie Fu turned towards Princess Consort Dao, her face glowing with excitement. Your Majesty, Madame Xiao's idea is brilliant. It seems quite workable. What do you think? They were discussing the challenge of preparing 1,000 chickens and 1,000 fishes, a test set by Qingdi to create difficulties. Madame Xiao's proposal was a fitting response, a tit-for-tat strategy. Princess Consort was pleasantly surprised. She hadn't anticipated such a creative solution from Xian. Her eyes brightened as she slowly nodded and smiled. This idea seems plausible. Now, what about the other two dishes? Xian was equally prepared for the other challenges. Addressing the seemingly impossible task of creating a dish that was both cold and hot, Xiao Xian suggested casually. For the dish with contrasting temperatures, we can encase ice in a batter and deep fry it. By serving it before the ice melts, we can achieve the effect of being both cold and hot. Princess Consort. Auntie Fu. Princess Consort's expression remained puzzled, and Auntie Fu struggled to hold back her laughter. Madame Xiao, what an ingenious idea. Truly remarkable. Princess Consort, though she found herself admiring this unconventional solution, couldn't help but voice a concern. But can deep-fried ice cubes truly be considered a dish? Other challenges proved relatively straightforward. While the idea of deep-frying ice was initially incredulous, the skilled chefs, with well-mixed batter and quick execution, could overcome this obstacle. Ice was readily available year-round for the royal family, making it easily obtainable. Before Xiao Xian could elaborate, Auntie Fu voiced her discontent. Your Highness, you are as benevolent and considerate as the Crown Prince, but Qingdi has crossed a line. Why should we engage in a fruitless argument with them? They're clearly trying to create difficulties for us, and we shouldn't be compelled to play by their rules. We have the final say in this matter. Xiao Xian silently concurred with Auntie Fu's perspective. Princess Consort seemed to have been bound by excessive decorum for too long. After pondering for a moment and realizing her limited options, Princess Consort reluctantly nodded and sighed. Very well. You're right. What's your alternative, then? Subconsciously, Princess Consort turned her gaze towards Xiao Xian, indicating her belief that Xiao Xian could resolve the issue. Xiao Xian, aware of the deliberate challenge thrown her way, wasn't contemplating cooking techniques but rather how to outmaneuver Qingdi and leave no room for objections. Her approach to problem-solving was unique, and her intelligence shone brightly under pressure. Her train of thought diverged from the norm, yielding entirely different outcomes. Moreover, she possessed a rudimentary knowledge of cooking, which, coupled with her keen wit, allowed her to devise a creative solution. With a brief pause, Xiao Xian's lips curled into a sly smile as she declared, Their demand is absurd. How can a cooked fish be alive? It's not a matter of making things difficult. It's a matter of shamelessness on Qingdi's part. Absolutely. Princess Consort concurred with Xiao Xian's perspective, her tone resolute. But even though we understand that, we must find a way to resolve this. The reputation of our empire is at stake, and the Crown Prince cannot afford to be seen as ineffectual. As the Crown Prince, he was expected to navigate and surmount any challenges that arose. There was no room for compromise. After a moment of contemplation, Xiao Xian's eyes lit up with determination as she said, If Qingdi is resorting to such shameless tactics, we cannot simply acquiesce. I do have a plan. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1330. Barely an idea. Isn't it just a live braised carp? Instruct the Imperial Kitchen to prepare a braised carp and 2 to 3 live loaches. Before presenting the dish, carefully place the live loaches inside the stomach of the braised carp. As Princess Consort and Auntie Fu stared in bewilderment, Xiao Xian felt a tinge of embarrassment and cleared her throat before continuing. The loaches are sensitive to heat, causing them to wriggle and struggle. Their movements will also trigger the carp to react. Voila! We have a living braised carp. Auntie Fu couldn't help but chuckle. Princess Consort, attempting to stifle her laughter, raised her handkerchief to her face and coughed discreetly. Is this feasible? Xiao Xian replied, It's just an idea based on my knowledge. I couldn't think of any other solution. The concept had actually been inspired by a dish Shed encountered in the past, a specialty known as loach drilling tofu. Back in her hometown of Shaoding village, whenever she expressed an interest in cooking, a group of eager assistants would lend their support. Shed attempted the loach drilling tofu dish once before using plump, lively loaches, but the endeavor had failed. The loaches hadn't managed to burrow into the tofu as expected. Although the resulting pot of loach tofu soup had been delicious and deeply flavored, it had not fulfilled the desired criteria for a successful loach tofu dish. Contemplating the braised carp challenge had unexpectedly brought this memory to mind. Auntie Fu chimed in with a reassuring smile. Princess Consort, fret not. I share Madame Xiao's sentiment. Those individuals from Qingdi are behaving completely unreasonably. Why should we not turn the tables and make things right? Princess Consort found herself without a rebuttal. Her dilemma lay in her lack of alternative ideas. Moreover, this matter could not afford any further delay. The banquet was scheduled for the following night. If the dishes weren't presented, how could Great Qin avoid becoming a laughingstock in the eyes of Qingdi? How would the Crown Prince, the Fourth Prince, and the Second Prince, those responsible for receiving Prince of Qingdi and his delegation, respond to the situation? As these concerns swirled in Princess Consort's mind, she grew increasingly anxious and irritated. She eventually conceded, "Well, I'm not certain if this method will work. I'll have someone report it to the Crown Prince later, and he can make the final decision." She turned her gaze towards Xiao Xian, offering a gracious smile. "In any case, Madame Xiao, you've put forth a great effort, and am truly grateful. Xiao Zhan, fetch the red box from my dressing table." Promptly, Xiao Zhan retrieved a small, finely crafted vermilion wooden box resembling a conch shell. It was a delicate piece. Handing the box to Xiao Xian, Princess Consort beamed and said, "These golden hairpins are a personal favorite of mine, and I believe they will complement you beautifully. Consider them a gift." Xiao Xian accepted the box with gratitude. Whether or not the hairpins were the Princess Consort's cherished possession, she accepted them with grace upon the Princess Consort's generous offer. The golden hairpins featured a thumbnail-sized gem in vivid red, adorned with pearls the size of green beans. Their design depicted butterflies and peony flowers, exhibiting exquisite craftsmanship. They could be considered a rare treasure. With her mind preoccupied, Princess Consort didn't engage in further conversation with Xiao Xian, instead instructing someone to escort her home. Back at home, Li Xia and Li Qiu were fraught with worry over Xiao Xian's absence, relieved to see her return. "Madam, are you all right? We were so worried." Xiao Xian reassured them with a smile. "Don't fret, I'm perfectly fine. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1331. Is it solved? Xiao Yunduan served as an aide to the Crown Prince. Li Xia and Li Qiu suddenly recalled this fact and couldn't help but share a hearty laugh. After a brief conversation, Xiao Xian returned to her bed to rest. Meeting Princess Consort was really tiring, so she decided to forego her initial plan for the evening. She had intended to prepare salt-baked chicken and fry a pair of crispy squab pigeons, coincidentally accompanied by a sour and sweet plum sauce for dipping. Additionally, she had prepared a plate of garlic and ginger mixed with sesame oil, perfect for seasoning the salt-baked chicken. However, a lingering issue at the East Palace remained unresolved. It was best to keep a low profile and avoid causing any further disturbances. The potential repercussions of such actions would not be favorable. Xiao Xian couldn't help but feel a bit annoyed. Why did people insist on praising her culinary skills? Since when had she and her husband become such prominent figures, subject to clandestine scrutiny? Xiao Yunduan had been returning home late every night, and this evening was no exception. However, there was a difference tonight. Xiao Xian had deliberately stayed awake to wait for him. Upon his quiet return, Xiao Yunduan entered the room and found Xiao Xian, who was preparing to climb out of bed. He took her hand and joined her, sitting down together. "Why are you still awake?" Xiao Xian blinked and chuckled. "I was waiting for you. So how did it go? Has the issue been resolved?" Xiao Yunduan lowered his head, smiling warmly as he gazed at her. "Yes, your idea was excellent. I knew it had to be your ingenious plan." His wife had always had many strange and good ideas. He knew this better than anyone. Xiao Xian did not understand what he meant. She looked confused. "Huh. Of course it was her idea. Needless to say?" Xiao Yunduan wore a sardonic expression as he shared. "The steward who reported to the Crown Prince mentioned that Princess Consort and Auntie Fu had an extensive discussion with you and eventually devised a few ideas. I can't say if they'll be effective, but I've relayed them to the Crown Prince." The steward readily attributed half of the credit to Princess Consort. Naturally, such a move wouldn't have occurred without Princess Consort's guidance and consent. According to the hierarchy, it was only fitting for the Princess Consort to receive credit. Regrettably, Xiao Xian remained unnoticed. Some individuals even harbored envy and deliberately disregarded her contributions. Xiao Yunduan gently held her hands and whispered, "I understand that these ideas were your creation. Don't be upset. We don't need the recognition. I hesitated to share this with you, but upon reflection, it's better to inform you." At least it provided her with some reassurance. The moment these ideas were introduced, Envy, known for her sarcasm, couldn't resist lavishing praise upon Princess Consort for her wisdom and intelligence. Naturally, others either agreed or felt compelled to concur. Xiao Yunduan, though he recognized the truth, found himself constrained by the circumstances. Qiao Xian. It wasn't that she was entirely indifferent to the situation. Qiao Xian simply found it hard to fathom. After all, Princess Consort had consistently exuded an aura of dignity and refinement. It was difficult to imagine that someone of her stature would claim the credit for another's work. She hadn't yet witnessed the full spectrum of the nobility's ambitions and the cutthroat politics they navigated. Regardless of how poised and graceful Princess Consort appeared, she was not exempt from the prevailing customs. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1332. Losing face in exchange for the Crown Prince's misfortune. Naturally, Princess Consort harbored hopes of receiving praise and recognition from the Crown Prince, which would solidify her position. Despite not feeling well, Qiao Xian remained unperturbed. Before long, she regained her composure, leaning into Xiao Yunduan's embrace and offering a gentle smile. "Don't fret, my dear. I didn't seek any personal gain from this. Whether I receive recognition or not doesn't matter to me. What's important is that we've resolved the issue. Those individuals from Qingdi were truly unreasonable." Xiao Yunduan agreed. "Indeed, my wife is truly magnanimous. Regardless of what others do, the Crown Prince knows." They exchanged smiles. Xiao Yunduan continued, "After thorough discussion, we implemented your idea collectively. You've proven to be superior to many others. The behavior of those from Qingdi was truly excessive. Their actions could indeed be described as going too far, and the great Qin Empire had essentially connived with it. As the saying goes, they had pushed their luck. They couldn't surpass Great Qin's strength, and in their envy and insecurity, they sought to find fault and outdo Great Qin in certain aspects to assert their worth. This experience had taught the Crown Prince that he shouldn't be overly courteous or accommodating to the Qingdi delegation. Achieving peace along the northern border wouldn't hinge on winning them over with kindness. It depended on Great Qin's strength and posture. Upon witnessing Great Qin's strength and recognizing its stance, the Qingdi delegation dared not act recklessly. The Crown Prince was not without a temper, and this diplomatic delegation from Qingdi had indeed tested his patience. Therefore, despite devising a solution to the issue, they had kept it a secret, even from the other princes. The individual responsible for receiving the diplomatic delegation continued to furrow his brow as he grappled with finding a solution. This situation greatly pleased the Qingdi delegation, fostering a sense of superiority and vindication. Their stay at the inn was considerably more enjoyable as they finally felt they could hold their heads high and reverse the tables in their favor. The third prince, fourth prince, and others grappled with mixed emotions. On one hand, they harbored a longing for the Crown Prince to stumble in his handling of foreign diplomatic missions. They saw an opportunity to magnify any mistakes, tarnish the Crown Prince's image, and potentially garner the attention of their father, provoking his anger and disappointment. However, on the other hand, they found the actions of Qingdi's representatives utterly reprehensible and shameless. As princes of the Qin Empire, they felt a deep sense of anger and disgust. They wished for these Qingdi individuals to be taught a lesson. During a conversation between the fourth prince and honored Princess Mei, they discussed the matter at hand. As the fourth prince expressed his concerns and hesitations, honored Princess Mei couldn't help but sneer. "My son, you still haven't grasped the essentials of the situation. If the fate of this empire falls into the Crown Prince's hands, where do you think we will stand in the future? In my opinion, it's better for the Crown Prince to face adversity. What does it matter if Qingdi gains an upper hand in this situation? Such cunning ploys hold little significance. The crucial aspect is that if they win, the Crown Prince will suffer. If the Crown Prince suffers, our opportunity will come." The fourth prince's eyes lit up, and he responded with a smile. Mother, your insights are truly profound. I'm the one who has been naive. Indeed, considering Great Qing's formidable strength, losing face seemed inconsequential. Trading that slight loss of face for the crown prince's misfortune was a remarkably favorable deal. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1333. Watch the face slap tonight. The fourth prince couldn't hide his delight as he gloated. Qingdi's people are clearly provoking trouble deliberately. Their demands are entirely irrational and baseless. But third brother, that fool, is too arrogant, pressuring the crown prince to concede. Right now, the Eastern Palace is in utter disarray. I doubt they can come up with a solution. Honored Princess May responded with a disdainful smile, mirroring the fourth prince's sense of satisfaction. Isn't this just perfect? I dissuaded you from taking on this role back then. Do you see now? Such matters are highly prone to mishaps. Even the slightest error, no matter how minor, can tarnish the nation's reputation and the ruler's prestige. It provides others with ample ammunition to criticize you. If you perform well, it's merely your duty. Nothing good comes of it. The fourth prince was wholeheartedly convinced. A similar conversation took place in the Empress Qingdi Palace. While the situation had stemmed from a slip of the third prince's tongue, it hardly mattered. Currently, the third prince maintained complete silence, behaving as if nothing had transpired, and shifted the blame onto the crown prince. In the blink of an eye, the night had arrived when the crown prince was to prepare the requested dishes for entertaining Qingdi's diplomatic delegation, as outlined by Vice Envoy de C. Xiao Yunduan had urged Xiao Xian to retire early when he left in the morning, cautioning that he might return very late, perhaps even past midnight. Xiao Xian agreed with a smile and kissed him farewell. She hoped for his success tonight and eagerly anticipated hearing all the details tomorrow. Such a significant event in the capital would undoubtedly be a major topic of conversation. That evening, the crown prince hosted a banquet in the East Palace. All the princes, ministers, nobles, and trusted advisors of the crown prince were in attendance. The crowd held varying sentiments: curiosity, anticipation, or schadenfreude. The entire capital was aware of Qingdi's unreasonable demand, and the Eastern Palace had offered substantial rewards to anyone capable of resolving the issue. Regrettably, even with such enticing incentives, no one had stepped forward to volunteer. She had heard that the East Palace was in a state of great anxiety today. She wondered how the night would unfold. Prince of Qingdi, Vice Envoy de C, and the rest were well aware of this situation. At the banquet, they wore smug expressions, eagerly anticipating Great Qing's embarrassment. Even the selfish fourth prince and third prince clenched their teeth in frustration, silently hurling curses. They wished they could confront them head-on. Before long, the crown prince arrived. Everyone greeted him with politeness, and the crown prince maintained his genteel composure as he instructed everyone to take their seats. After some pleasantries, Prince Nuanua and Vice Envoy de C exchanged knowing glances. With a hearty laugh, Vice Envoy de C exclaimed, "Crown Prince, why not have the dishes served promptly? A banquet hosted by the Crown Prince must feature an array of delicacies. We've arrived on empty stomachs and can hardly wait. By the way, Crown Prince, you've surely ordered the dishes we requested in advance, right? After all, Great Qing is a nation of etiquette. You wouldn't renege on your promise, would you?" Though infuriated, the officials dared not retort. Instead, they glared at the Qingdi delegation while muttering curses under their breath. Shameless. Utterly shameless. The crown prince couldn't help but seethe with anger. Yet, as he contemplated the impending humiliation he would endure, a sense of resignation washed over him, offering a semblance of solace. Chapter 1334. Everyone can only wait. The crown prince maintained his usual elegance and grace as he smiled. Great Qing abounds in resources, and you've traveled a long way, so consider me your hospitable host. Fear not, Vice Envoy de C, an array of dishes awaits you. I assure you won't go hungry. Vice Envoy de C boisterously chortled. The crown prince is indeed warm and generous. The prince and other ministers are truly grateful. Crown Prince, I previously ordered 3 specific dishes I was eager to taste. Crown Prince granted my request, but I trust you haven't forgotten. The response left Vice Envoy de C and his entourage momentarily stunned. Similarly perplexed, the 4th prince and others, who were unaware of the situation, shared Vice Envoy de C's bewilderment. What exactly was the Crown Prince implying? Was he genuinely prepared, or were these mere words? Weren't the East Palace's officials meandering aimlessly, resembling headless flies? How was it possible that everything had been arranged in such a short span? Unfortunately, the Crown Prince's countenance remained genteel and poised, betraying no indication of his intentions. Thus, everyone could only await the unfolding events. Vice Envoy de C chuckled dryly. Is that so? Since the Crown Prince has spoken, I shall eagerly anticipate it. The Crown Prince smiled and declared, In that case, let the banquet commence. Elegantly attired palace maids approached with trays, serving dishes meticulously and orderly across the long tables before the guests. The small, exquisitely plated dishes were visually pleasing, and their aromatic scents filled the air. However, despite 4 dishes being placed before each guest, the anticipated specialty dishes had yet to make an appearance. Alongside the Crown Prince, officials raised their cups, offering toasts filled with well wishes. The Crown Prince reciprocated with a smile, raising his own cup, and the entire gathering followed suit, toasting in harmony. After a few pleasantries were exchanged, a couple of ministers promptly rose to their feet, cups in hand, and offered toasts filled with auspicious words. Consequently, the atmosphere brimmed with camaraderie. In that moment, many attendees shared knowing glances, a collective understanding dawning upon them. The Crown Prince appeared to be attempting to navigate through this predicament using a rather unorthodox method. The 4th prince sneered with disdain, privately mocking the Crown Prince's desperation. Employing such a pedestrian approach was truly beneath him. Yet, the 4th prince did not dwell on it for long. If it involved a citizen of the Great Qin Empire, they would undoubtedly tread carefully, ensuring their actions were in their best interest. No subject of the empire would dare to humiliate the Crown Prince. However, Qingdi and the other foreign delegates were unlikely to let the matter slide so easily. Nonetheless, the Crown Prince seemed to be out of options. Unsurprisingly, Qingdi's delegation held similar suspicions. Vice Envoy de C preempted any further pleasantries and, displaying impatience, called out, Crown Prince, might we be graced with the dishes I ordered? I'm eager to savor them, hee. Xiao Yunduan and his cohorts inwardly sneered, convinced that the Crown Prince was toying with them, allowing them to taste the full bitterness of disappointment. If that's how anxious you are, then the Crown Prince certainly won't disappoint you. With a serene smile, the Crown Prince conceded, Vice Envoy de C appears quite eager indeed. Very well. Let us serve your requested dishes. As he concluded his words, a courtly eunuch, hands steady, presented a tray bearing a dish before Prince Nuanua. Chapter 1335. This is a speciality. Vice Envoy de C stood beside Prince Nuanua, his curiosity piqued. He couldn't resist craning his neck to catch a glimpse. Crown Prince, is this all for one serving? The Crown Prince wore a knowing smile. Indeed, Vice Envoy de C. This exquisite dish is the 1,000 silk hand treasure, meticulously crafted from 1,000 chickens and 1,000 fish. Officer Xiao, would you kindly elucidate the preparation process to Prince Nuanua? Of course, Crown Prince. Xiao Yunduan rose and respectfully bowed before proceeding to describe the dish's creation. He spoke with composure. All the remaining ingredients are still kept in the kitchen. Should Prince Nuanua and Vice Envoy de C have any doubts, you are welcome to visit the kitchen for verification. However, it would be best to do so tonight, as we believe in minimizing waste, and any leftovers will be distributed to the kitchen staff after this evening. Our great Qin Empire, despite its vastness and abundant resources, has always upheld the value of not squandering food. We consider it a blessing to utilize resources wisely. Therefore, this dish was prepared with utmost care. I encourage both Prince Nuanua and Vice Envoy de C to savor it. It was unreasonable to prepare individual portions of a dish created from 1,000 chickens and 1,000 fish. Such extravagance and waste were unimaginable. The people of Qingdi knew the importance of conserving resources. They understood that in times of hardship, when seaweed yields were low or harsh winters claimed the lives of countless livestock, their lives could become exceptionally challenging. Consequently, they revered food more than most and were averse to any form of wastefulness. Xiao Yunduan's explanation left the diplomatic delegation from Qingdi without words. Even the fourth prince and the third prince exchanged bewildered glances. Is this all there is to it? Upon careful consideration, it became apparent that there was nothing amiss. Prince Nua reluctantly picked up his chopsticks and tentatively sampled the thousand silk hands dish. He managed to muster a smile and nodded appreciatively. The flavor is indeed quite delightful. I'm curious if the other two dishes are ready for presentation as well. Xiao Yunduan exchanged a brief glance with the crown prince, who signaled his approval. Xiao Yunduan replied, "Certainly." This time, the eunuch in charge, the same one as before, hurriedly served the dishes, but this time, his movements were noticeably swifter. He practically dashed in and swiftly placed plates of cube-shaped, golden-fried snacks before Prince Nua. Xiao Yunduan continued, "Prince, please indulge in this delicacy. This is our ice and fire golden cake." Everyone present raised eyebrows in puzzlement. What on earth was this? Prince Nua regarded Xiao Yunduan with skepticism, cautiously picked up a piece with his chopsticks, and placed it into his mouth while the gazes of the crowd bore down on him. One bite. Crack. With a resounding crunch, Prince Nua exclaimed softly, "Ah, there's ice in this." Prince Nua, you have a discerning palate, Xiao Yunduan praised with sincerity, wearing a smile as he explained the unique nature of the dish. Many in the gathering couldn't contain their amusement. Observing the crestfallen expressions on Prince Nua, Vice Envoy de C, and the others who had no choice but to concede, brought a strange sense of satisfaction. Indeed, this dish was truly extraordinary. Who would have thought it combined both hot and cold elements? Vice Envoy de C became slightly flustered and irritated. Can this even be considered a dish? Isn't Great Qin being too casual? Xiao Yunduan calmly replied, "In our empire, this is considered a special delicacy." It was an air of self-assuredness. Vice Envoy de C. For some reason, a twinge of guilt tugged at him. The other ministers showed their solidarity with Xiao Yunduan's response. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1336. A strong dragon doesn't fight a local snake. Lord Xiao is absolutely correct. This is a specialty of Great Qin. Indeed, Great Qin boasts an array of remarkable dishes. Ah, you folks simply lack the culinary enlightenment to appreciate it. Of course. The officials remained gracious and extended warm hospitality to the Qingdi diplomatic delegation, fearing any displeasure or discomfort on their part. However, they were taken aback by the excessive politeness displayed by Qingdi and the barbarians, which went beyond their expectations. In response, they couldn't help but react with mockery and jest. Fueled by their frustration, they vented their displeasure freely. The Qingdi diplomatic delegation, hearing these comments, found themselves torn between anger and frustration. This treatment was a world apart from what they had encountered earlier. The contrast was palpable, and the feelings of disparity were evident. But what could they do? A mighty dragon had no reason to contend with a local serpent. To Great Qin, they were neither mighty dragons nor local despots. They were merely barbarians who dared to open a dye shop. Their own amusement was all that mattered to Great Qin. Xiao Yunduan maintained his genial smile. Prince Nua, Vice Envoy de C, shall we present the third dish now? All eyes turned expectantly to Xiao Yunduan, brimming with anticipation and excitement. By this point, it was clear to everyone present. The Eastern Palace had come prepared. He had devised a solution in his mind, but he chose to keep it to himself for now. Yet, this situation had its merits. It would serve as a grand surprise for Qingdi and the other detractors, allowing them to experience the sensation of falling from arrogance. Who were they to be so ungracious? Nonetheless, this wasn't the usual demeanor of the crown prince. Something must have truly incensed him this time. Nevertheless, the crown prince's conduct only garnered more respect from everyone present. As the heir to the throne, he needed to be magnanimous and courteous, refraining from losing his temper, especially in the face of those who behaved rudely and unreasonably. The fourth prince, the third prince, and the second prince were utterly bewildered. What had come over the crown prince? What had led him to alter his approach? They had been anticipating him making a fool of himself, only to find that the outcome defied their expectations. The three princes clenched their teeth in secret frustration. The crown prince had become cunning as well. He had covertly made preparations without revealing anything when they inquired out of concern. It was too much, far too much. The Qingdi diplomatic delegation, meanwhile, experienced disappointment twice over. They were well aware that a live braised carp was no match for the other dish. They no longer wished to witness this ordeal. Yet, curiosity nagged at them. They genuinely wanted to see how this predicament would be resolved. Despite their efforts to make things difficult, they lacked the knowledge of how to untangle the knot they had created. Having endured 2 setbacks, they were unfazed by the prospect of another. Prince Nuno let out a light snort and stiffly remarked, "Well, what are you waiting for?" Xiao Yunduan nodded. "Of course." With a meaningful glance to the eunuch who had been observing the proceedings outside, Xiao Yunduan signaled him to proceed. Everyone craned their necks, eagerly awaiting the unfolding spectacle. Before long, a braised carp was placed before Prince Nua. The sight left everyone utterly speechless. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1337. Really moving. They blinked, rubbed their eyes, and took a second look. No, their eyes weren't playing tricks on them, were they? It was undeniably a regular braised carp. Identical to what they would typically have. Prince Nua seemed to share the same sentiment. His face brightened, and his eyes sparkled as he gestured towards the braised carp, ready to voice his sneer. "Lord Xiao, you didn't serve us the live braised carp we requested, did you? We were expecting." His eyes widened abruptly and he froze. The carp was moving. Not once, but twice more, in a clear and unmistakable manner. Everyone present witnessed it, and a collective gasp of astonishment swept through the room. "It moved, it actually moved. I saw it. Is this some kind of illusion? It's genuinely alive, a living braised carp. How can this be?" Prince Nua's expression underwent a rapid transformation, and he nearly leaped in alarm. Supernatural, it had to be supernatural. He shot a surprised and accusatory glare at Xiao Yunduan. How on earth did you manage this?" Xiao Yunduan maintained his serene smile. "Our chefs have their own secrets. If you're interested, you can discuss it with them tomorrow." A suppressed snicker circulated through the banquet hall. Prince Nua huffed and shot a chilly stare at Xiao Yunduan. For some inexplicable reason, he felt a tinge of frustration. He was a prince, so why was he engaging in a conversation with a mere chef? What a ludicrous situation. Young Lord Xiao appeared to be intentionally mocking him, as if underestimating his intelligence. In his eyes, great Qin scholars were the most loathsome. They exploited their erudition, harboring hidden agendas and taking every opportunity to belittle others without the slightest hesitation. Although arguing was futile, he was seething with discontent. Xiao Yunduan prodded, "Aren't you going to give it a try?" Prince Nua's countenance darkened further. Sample the dish? How could he dare to do that? It seemed highly peculiar no matter how he looked at it. Who knew what the people of Great Qin might have done? What if something went awry after he tasted it? He wasn't willing to take such a risk with his own life. "No need." Prince Nua signaled to the young eunuch overseeing the banquet. "Remove this dish." The young eunuch lowered his head, ready to have the dish taken away. However, Vice Envoy Deci halted him and offered a friendly smile. "This is intriguing, Prince. I'd like to give it a try and broaden my culinary horizons." Prince Nuna glanced at him and nodded with a smile. "Very well, go ahead." With Vice Envoy Deci partaking, Great Qin wouldn't dare to employ any trickery. If anything untoward happened to Deci, he wouldn't let it slide. The young eunuch swiftly brought the dish to Vice Envoy Deci's table. Vice Envoy de C made a concerted effort to remain composed. He delicately selected a piece of fish with his chopsticks and placed it into his mouth. As he chewed, a look of astonishment crossed his face. The fish was remarkably delectable and impeccably cooked, unmistakably not raw. This was truly perplexing. In that very moment, the animated braised carp leaped once again, causing Vice Envoy de C to startle so abruptly that he nearly choked on the fish in his mouth. However, a swift revelation dawned upon him, and he exclaimed with both surprise and delight, "I see now. You've placed a live loach inside the fish's belly. I was puzzled as to why the fish could move despite being thoroughly cooked. That's the trick." Vice Envoy de C seemed to have unearthed a vulnerability in the Great Qin Empire's presentation. He smirked confidently and continued, "I was talking about a live braised carp. Is this considered deceitful? Your Great Qin Empire has certainly displayed cunning tactics, teasing us in this manner. I'm curious to hear how the Crown Prince plans to elucidate this." Prince Nua also shared in the revelation. "Ah, I see now." Chapter 1338. You were clearly unreasonable first. Prince Nunu seethed with anger. He felt utterly infuriated. To think that his anxiety had been driven by a mere few loaches. If word of this got back to Qingdi, had become the subject of ridicule. The idea of being afraid of a handful of loaches was utterly absurd. The mere thought of it made Prince Nua's face flush with embarrassment. "Crown Prince, how do you intend to address this matter?" The Crown Prince, ever polite and dignified, held a high station. Even if the other princes secretly wished him ill, they still maintained an air of politeness and congeniality in his presence. Who had ever dared to address him with such an attitude and tone? For a moment, the Crown Prince felt somewhat awkward and discomfited. Xiao Yunduan responded calmly, "Prince Nua and Vice Envoy de C, fret not. The Crown Prince has entrusted this matter to me, so feel free to address your queries to me. Can you move the cooked braised carp?" Prince Nua was taken aback and blurted out, "Certainly not. So you were deceiving us." "But didn't the carp move?" "Yes, it moved, but, since it's in motion, it naturally qualifies as a live braised carp. But it's unmistakably a loach that's moving." "What I perceived was a carp in motion. That's the loach inside the carp's stomach moving. What I saw was a carp in motion." You're manipulating the facts." Xiao Yunduan sneered. "How am I distorting the facts?" "It's you who are distorting them." The prince knew very well that a roasted carp doesn't move, yet he tasked our chef with the job of making the roasted carp move. If that isn't unreasonable, then what is? We have maintained a harmonious relationship with Qingdi, extending utmost courtesy to the prince and his delegation. They are regarded as esteemed guests, and we have spared no effort in ensuring their comfort, whether it be in attire, cuisine, lodgings, or transportation. However, how have you chosen to reciprocate? By uttering such preposterous words to vex us. This amounts to nothing short of provocation. I must inquire, Prince, what is the intent behind your actions? Do you perceive Great Qin as an easy target, or are you intentionally demeaning us? Prince Nua was left dumbfounded. Vice Envoy de C felt a chill creeping up his spine, causing him to break out in a cold sweat. His face drained of color, and he was overcome with fear. Xiao Yunduan's words ignited the ire of the ministers. "Absolutely, this is a provocation. Our Great Qin does not shy away from challenges. We cannot allow such behavior. We've treated each other with respect. Shouldn't that respect be reciprocated?" What a farce. I've lived a long life, but I've never heard of a living braised carp. A cooked fish that's still alive. How absurd. Outrageous. Prince Nua found himself in an embarrassing predicament and acknowledged his fault with a mixture of anger and embarrassment. He stammered, We were just jesting back then. We didn't expect you to take it seriously. If it couldn't be done, you should have declined." Xiao Yunduan inquired, "So it was merely a jest?" Prince Nua instinctively sighed with relief and hastily responded, "Of course, it was just a jest." Xiao Yunduan chuckled and remarked, "Indeed, it was merely a jest. Qingdi has always shared an amicable relationship with us, And Prince Nua's visit is a genuine gesture. How could he act so unreasonably? We were simply indulging in light-hearted banter with Prince Nua, don't you agree? The ministers were taken aback but soon regained their composure, bursting into laughter. Yes, it was all in jest. Absolutely, it was just a jest. This jest was quite amusing, hee. Indeed, ha ha ha. Chapter 1339. No one wants to be roasted over the fire. Prince Nua, vice envoy to sea. Even though the conflict had been resolved, he found himself strangely perturbed. The crown prince cast an admiring glance at Xiao Yunduan and exchanged a few polite words with a smile. Prince Nua, no longer inclined to be obstinate, concurred with the crown prince and adopted a more respectful demeanor. He had come to realize that the great Qin Empire genuinely sought amicable relations with Qingdi, which was why they had extended such warm hospitality. However, the great Qin Empire was by no means cowed by Qingdi or himself. Should he truly provoke them, he wouldn't fare well either. He couldn't help but steal a few more glances at Xiao Yunduan. In truth, he harbored no resentment toward Xiao Yunduan, even though Xiao Yunduan had backed him into a corner, nearly causing him to lose face. This had compelled him to retreat and provide an exit strategy. Instead, he held a sincere admiration. Qingdi was a straightforward man who esteemed capable individuals. In his eyes, Xiao Yunduan possessed remarkable capabilities. Although he appeared as a frail scholar, his recent words had rattled him to the core, causing his heart to race and almost undermining his composure. Not everyone could command such authority. What was even rarer was that Xiao Yunduan had not coerced him. Instead, while holding the upper hand, he had transformed enmity into amity and offered him an escape route, averting his humiliation. It was hard for him not to feel relieved and grateful. After all, who would willingly subject themselves to public humiliation? He pondered if he would have granted his adversary clemency under similar circumstances. The answer was most likely not. Yet, he held no disdain for Xiao Yunduan despite the circumstances. Xiao Yunduan had been the one to place him in this predicament, and Xiao Yunduan had also been the one to taunt and ridicule him. Xiao Yunduan harbored no fear of him. Instead, he sought to preserve some semblance of dignity for the sake of their friendship. However, if he failed to grasp the situation and provoked Xiao Yunduan again, there was no guarantee he wouldn't find himself ensnared once more. In any case, they couldn't match wits with these cunning scholars. As the host, his primary focus was on ensuring the guests enjoyed themselves. With the guests refraining from causing trouble, the banquet proceeded smoothly. It wasn't just Prince Nua. The entire Qingdi delegation understood that they couldn't easily trifle with Great Qin. It was in their best interest to behave. Otherwise, if there were future encounters, they might not find an exit strategy. How could their straightforward natures compare to the cunning of the Great Qin scholars? They had no choice but to restrain themselves and play the role of gracious guests. What else could they do? That night, the banquet continued well into the late hours. The crown prince was so delighted that he convened a meeting with Xiao Yunduan and his other trusted confidants in his study. When Xiao Yunduan finally returned home, it was well past midnight. Nevertheless, the banquet had garnered immense attention among the nobles and courtiers in the capital. Everyone was eager to attend such an intriguing event. Word of everything that transpired at the banquet had reached Empress Qi, honored Princess Mei, Princess Concubine Virtue, Princess Consort of the East Palace, and the Tian family. Naturally, reactions varied, with some individuals delighted and others incensed. For Princess Consort, it was a long-awaited relief, and her previously anxious heart was now at ease. Chapter 1340. This is praising her heart. Xiao Zhan and the others offered their congratulations to Princess Consort with warm smiles and showered her with compliments. In truth, Princess Consort hadn't sought credit for most of Qiao Xian's accomplishments, but she also didn't object when servants hinted at her involvement. Being praised in such a manner, especially as the crown prince's beloved wife, brought her immense joy. It was a compliment that struck the mark precisely. Auntie Fu couldn't help but offer a reminder with a smile. It's all thanks to Madame Xiao's assistance that Her Majesty was able to resolve the issue. Her Majesty should consider rewarding Madame Xiao once more. Feeling content, Princess Consort nodded in agreement and said with a smile, "Indeed, Ms. Chao's intelligence is truly remarkable. She devised a brilliant solution. She has made a significant contribution to the Crown Prince, so she undoubtedly deserves a generous reward. Select a few fine items from the storeroom, some new brocades, and domestically crafted rouge powder. Once you've gathered them, have them delivered to her. In any case, we must convey to Lord Xiao the Crown Prince's high regard for him." Auntie Fu respectfully bowed. Within the palace, Empress Qi, honored Princess Mei, and the others had anticipated a different outcome. They lamented how the Crown Prince's family had basked in the limelight at the banquet. Rumor had it that Prince Nua and his delegation had been utterly convinced by their response, making them even more disheartened about their own reserved behavior. As for the Tian family, Tian Shanshan, and her daughter, they were deeply invested in this matter. Upon hearing the events, Mrs. Tian's interest waned, and she sneered dismissively. "The Crown Prince seems quite incensed this time. I never expected him to go to such lengths. Frankly, those barbarians are utterly inept. They don't even know how to find fault with others. Instead, they were intimidated. My anticipation was in vain." The Tian family had always aligned themselves with the fourth prince and honored Princess Mei, and naturally, they harbored hopes of seeing the East Palace face difficulties. Particularly when Xiao Yunduan aligned himself with the Crown Prince, their antipathy towards the Crown Prince intensified. They harbored hopes of misfortune befalling the Crown Prince. However, Tian Shanshan felt a twinge of unease. After discussing the situation with her mother for a while, she retreated to her room to rest. Inside her room, the curtains adorned with intricate flower and butterfly embroidery hung low. The room's occupants tossed and turned, unable to find sleep. Tian Shanshan's heart burned with intensity, her thoughts in tumult. Her heartbeats were erratic, and her cheeks blazed with warmth. The more affronted she felt, the more compelled she was to subconsciously focus on him. No one knew about Xiao Yunduan's actions within the court and his accomplishments there, but she had been keeping a close watch on him. The more she observed him, the more she recognized his extraordinariness. Her thoughts became increasingly fixated on him, and she found it difficult to let go. Tonight, she had just discovered his allure, and her heart was in turmoil, on the brink of leaping out of her chest. A mix of emotions, shock, exhilaration, desolation, sadness and joy, seemed to twist her internal organs into a tangled mess. The sensation was both sour and bitter. Never before had she felt such envy toward Xiao Xian. If she hadn't been part of the equation, Xiao Yunduan would have chosen her as his bride. There would have been no reason for him to decline her, and he never would have. But then there was Xiao Xian. This woman hailed from a humble background with no notable lineage, yet she was envious and self-centered. She didn't truly love him. What she cherished most was herself. Otherwise, how could she fail to discern what was best for him? Chapter 1341. Opportunity. If Xiao Yunduan had chosen to marry her back then, he would have achieved tremendous success by now. Why should the East Palace even be a factor in all of this? She could only blame herself for being too lenient. Rather than adopting a wait-and-see approach and giving them time to think, she should have taken action to eliminate Xiao Xian. Had she done so, none of this would have transpired. Without Xiao Xian obstructing the way, Xiao Yunduan would certainly have changed his mind. So what if it were revealed that Xiao Yunduan shared a profound connection with Minister Old Yun? It was none of the East Palace's concern. Tian Shanshan had seemingly resigned herself, but after hearing Xiao Yunduan's actions tonight and picturing how he had humiliated Qingdi and their entourage, her heart rekindled with fervor. It was only then that she realized she had never truly given up. In reality, she desired this man even more than she had initially. Why not? In this fleeting existence, could she possibly encounter another man who stirred such deep emotions and longing within her? Unlikely. So why should she subject herself to this torment? Tian Shanshan tightened her grasp on the blanket. A glint of determination flickered in her dark eyes. Her crimson lips curled into a faint smile. She harbored no sense of urgency. She comprehended the significance of acting at the opportune moment. She wouldn't leap into the fray and confront them head-on when the spotlight was on them. That would yield her no advantage. By the time Xiao Yunduan returned home, Xiao Xian had already awakened from her slumber. Her eyes sparkled upon seeing him, and she greeted him with a smile. "What do you think? Was there quite a spectacle today?" She wasn't among the nobility who had access to the latest news through their own channels. She had to await Xiao Yunduan's return to learn anything. Xiao Yunduan stepped closer and planted a tender kiss on her lips. With a smile, he remarked, "My dear wife, since you came up with such a brilliant idea, of course there was quite a spectacle." Upon hearing his words, Xiao Xian burst into laughter. The Qingdi delegation had stirred up quite a commotion since arriving in the capital, and while the court couldn't take action, the commoners were becoming increasingly irate. Their humiliation this time around was a fitting response, and it would likely encourage them to behave more modestly in the future. Xiao Xian playfully complained, and Xiao Yunduan smiled as he responded, "That's the extent of it. The Prince of Qingdi and his entourage are heading to the royal hunting ground for a hunt. I'm finished with my duties here and we're heading south." Xiao Xian nodded, saying, "Excellent, just set a date, and we can depart at your convenience. The sooner we leave, the better." While the winter scenery in Jiangnan was beautiful, the journey was challenging. Both of them were determined to return home before the new year, so an early departure was preferable. Xiao Xian harbored concerns about their flower field and wondered how it would fare during the winter. "It's only a matter of a few days," Xiao Yunduan reassured her with a smile, his hands beginning to move playfully. "Let's take a break." Blushing, Xiao Xian grabbed his hands and chided, "What are you up to? It's so late, and you're still mischievous." Xiao Yunduan chuckled. After sneaking around just a moment ago, he was now behaving openly and boldly. He leaned close to her ear, planting a kiss as he spoke in a husky voice. "I feel like I have too much energy and can't sleep. My dear wife, you can take it easy tomorrow." He tenderly kissed her lips, gently applying pressure. Xiao Xian couldn't help but recline on the couch. She wrapped her arms around his neck and closed her eyes. Chapter 1342. Arranged clearly. The following day, Xiao Yunduan remained on duty at the court, but Xiao Xian found herself in a rather pitiable state. She was deeply immersed in her slumber, devoid of any energy or vitality. As the morning sunlight gently streamed through the window, she briefly stirred awake, only to soon close her eyes and drift back into peaceful slumber. Her plan was to indulge in this restful slumber until noon, at which point she would rise from her bed. Upon waking, she intended to luxuriate in a warm bath, easing the tension in her muscles and bones, followed by a hearty lunch. The evening held special promise as they intended to celebrate. Xiao Yunduan was determined to revel in the festivities, even if he couldn't make it home. Their grand plan involved crafting a rich, simmering pot of beef bone soup, accompanied by an assortment of delectable ingredients such as fish balls, shrimp balls, beef slices, lamb slices, egg dumplings, mushrooms, potato slices, winter melon slices, yam slices, and more, all destined for a sumptuous hot pot. The beef bone soup, enhanced with mountain fungus, promised a delightful and fragrant flavor that would be nothing short of comforting with each sip. Simultaneously, Xiao Yunduan instructed Xianxia to rise early the next morning and prepare noodles. The intention was to employ the flavorful beef bone soup to craft a delectable morning meal. Sated after her meal, Xiao Xian retired to bed early, with no intention of waiting up for Xiao Yunduan that night, not even if he were to return and call for her. She was determined to feign ignorance. For that man was recklessly relentless. His self-control was non-existent. Her pleas and tears were in vain as he pressed his impetuous kisses upon her lips, an infuriating aspect of his character. Xiao Xian had her day planned meticulously. However, to her astonishment, before noon, a reward arrived from Princess Consort's quarters, a gesture she hadn't anticipated. The fact that it came from the East Palace took her by surprise, leaving her wholly unprepared. As the emissaries from the East Palace arrived, Xiao Xian, Xianxia, Liqiu, and Qingyan were all left in a bewildered and anxious state. Xianxia mustered a strained smile and stuttered, "Auntie, please, just a moment. My wife, she wasn't feeling well yesterday and hasn't awakened yet. I'll call her right away." Auntie Liang found herself at a loss for words. She wasn't naive, and the anxiety displayed on the faces of these three servants didn't escape her notice. She couldn't possibly buy into such a cliché excuse from Xianxia. Internally, Auntie Liang pondered how Madame Xiao seemed to do as she pleased, disregarding protocol as the wife of an official. She had never witnessed any lady sleeping at such an hour. Lord Xiao, on the other hand, struck her as a refined, meticulous, and reserved gentleman. How could he tolerate such behavior from his wife? While these thoughts swirled in Auntie Liang's mind, she also considered how long it might take for Xiao Xian to rise, freshen up, and apply makeup. She simply didn't have the time to wait around, recognizing her own lack of significance in this scenario. With a polite smile, she addressed Li Xia and the others. Since Madame Xiao isn't feeling well, please don't disturb her. Allow her to rest properly, especially in this weather. These are rewards from the Princess Consort, and Madame Xiao has rendered valuable services. She will certainly be well treated. Kindly inform Madame Xiao once she awakens. Li Xia and Li Qiu breathed a collective sigh of relief and quickly expressed their gratitude, accepting the rewards with due respect. After Auntie Liang departed, they decided not to disturb Xiao Xian's slumber. Now that everyone from the East Palace has left, we can wait until Madame wakes up and assess the situation, they concurred. Chapter 1343. Reward from the Eastern Palace. As Xiao Xian slowly roused from her slumber, she was abruptly taken aback by what she overheard. A flush of embarrassment colored her cheeks. This situation was undeniably awkward. She didn't need to ponder much to realize that her aunt would likely remain unconvinced by Lixia's explanation. Her mind might be wandering into unfavorable territory. With a rueful smile, Xiao Xian conceded, "Never mind, I'll take the opportunity to recuperate. I'll pay a visit to the East Palace in a couple of days." She then instructed Li Xia and Li Qiu to carefully unwrap the gifts from Princess Consort, one by one. Xiao Xian was pleasantly surprised by the contents, which included 12 pieces of imperial brocade, a set of locally crafted rouge powder, 2 small ornaments made of jade and porcelain, 2 hand stoves intricately carved from purple copper, an incense burner adorned with beast motifs, a box of fragrant white sandalwood, an intricately embroidered handkerchief, a box of exquisite silk flowers, a pair of gold-inlaid white jade bracelets, and a pair of jade pendants. Additionally, there were 2 mahogany-carved snack boxes shaped like begonias. Each contained 6 exquisite pastries and 6 candied plums. Xiao Xian sampled a chestnut cake slightly larger than her thumb, which melted in her mouth and offered a delightful blend of chestnut aroma and creamy sweetness. Then, there was a lifelike lotus crisp, resembling an elegant lotus flower with delicate, stacked petals in a soft pink hue. The golden stamen and vibrant red cherry sauce on top created an enchanting visual and taste sensation. With a smile, Xiao Xian remarked, "You truly are the pastry chef of Donggong Yu. Your pastries are unlike any we have here. Have a taste for yourselves and prepare a plate for Qingyan as well." Li Xia and Li Qiu exchanged smiles and complied, sampling the treats. After a brief chat, they proceeded with their tasks. Xiao Yunduan returned home early that day, allowing him to join Xiao Xian for dinner. Xiao Xian's plan to indulge in a hearty meal remained unchanged, and to her pleasant surprise, Xiao Yunduan returned to keep her company. It was a delightful turn of events that erased the trace of morning resentment completely. They sat facing each other beneath the soft glow of the room's light, with a steaming hot pot gracing the center of their small table. The tantalizing aroma of the meal wafted through the room, creating a sense of warmth that filled their hearts. It felt like it had been a while since they'd shared a meal like this, a feeling that stirred emotions within them for no apparent reason. As they enjoyed their dinner, conversation flowed easily, punctuated by laughter. Afterward, they stood by the window, letting their meal settle while they engaged in a heartfelt conversation. Following this, they bathed and readied themselves for bed. Xiao Xian, mindful of any possible mischievous intentions from her husband, preemptively remarked before he could react, "You must be quite tired lately. Tonight, let's get a good night's rest and go to bed early." Xiao Yunduan chuckled, retorting, "I'm not tired at all, my dear wife." "How can that be? You must be tired. I had a restful night last night." Xiao Xian was taken aback and scolded him playfully, "You're just talking nonsense again." "Oh, come on." Xiao Yunduan burst into laughter, and in the end, he didn't disrupt her. They shared a private conversation, cuddling for a while before drifting off to sleep. The following day, An emissary from the East Palace arrived to present a reward. This time, it was an eunuch in charge. Xiao Xian, after a polite exchange, kindly dismissed him. The reward today was intended for Xiao Yunduan from the Crown Prince. It wasn't lost on them that the Emperor was aware of the events at the previous night's banquet. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1344. It's already rumored outside. The Emperor's joy was palpable, and he showered the Crown Prince with lavish praise and a plethora of rewards. The Crown Prince, known for his generosity, held Xiao Yunduan and Xiao Xian's contributions in high regard. Moreover, with everyone heaping praises on Princess Consort, he couldn't have been happier since applauding her was akin to praising himself. Additionally, the rumors had already circulated beyond the palace, leaving him with no choice but to embrace the story and not embarrass his Princess Consort. This only deepened his sense of guilt. His heart ached for Xiao Yunduan and Xiao Xian, especially when he witnessed Xiao Yunduan's tireless dedication to his service without a single complaint. The Crown Prince felt compelled to offer some consolation. Although Princess Consort had rewarded Xiao Xian, he decided to grant Xiao Yunduan something unique. The gifts included a golden jade Rui, 2 brand new books, 100 sheets of tribute paper, 2 finely crafted intermediate brushes, an inkstone, a pair of ink ingots, a brush pot, 2 scrolls bearing famous calligraphy, a pair of folding fans masterfully drawn by renowned artists from a previous dynasty, 6 exquisite jade pendants, and a pair of elegant jade thumb rings. These items from the East Palace were of the highest quality and, in the eyes of scholars, were truly priceless treasures. The Crown Prince's choice reflected his understanding of Xiao Yunduan's interests. Xiao Xian couldn't help but imagine how delighted she would be if someone like Xiao Hongxi received such gifts. Her husband might not go mad, but he would undoubtedly adore her. With her own reward in hand, it was now her turn to express her gratitude. In the afternoon, Xiao Xian dressed up and, accompanied by Li Qiu, headed to the East Palace to convey her thanks. The previous day, Auntie Liang had already returned to the East Palace to report to Princess Consort. Upon learning that Xiao Xian had yet to awaken, Princess Consort's irritation flared, and she turned to Auntie Fu exclaiming, "Is she holding something against me or what?" Princess Consort remained entirely unconvinced by the excuse of sickness. It was true that she had claimed most of the credit from Xiao Xian, whether by taking the initiative or through Xiao Xian's consent. She couldn't help but harbor a hint of guilt, suspecting that Xiao Xian's sickness was merely a ploy to express her discontent. Auntie Fu offered a reassuring smile. "Princess Consort, you might be overthinking this. Ms. Qiao isn't a native of the capital, and she lacks guidance from an experienced elder. How could she be expected to know all the rules?" Auntie Fu acknowledged Xiao Xian's significant contribution, and she anticipated that the East Palace would certainly reward her. If Xiao Xian had been aware of the unwritten rules among the capital's officials, she would have likely expected to receive these rewards within a few days following the banquet, rendering her morning slumber unusual. However, Xiao Xian was unfamiliar with the unspoken rules of the capital's aristocracy. Nonetheless, Princess Consort made a mental note. Considering Xiao Xian's background, Princess Consort sneered and remarked, "You're right, I hope that's the case." Otherwise, it would be perceived as arrogance on Xiao Xian's part. Auntie Fu concurred, saying, "Indeed, that must be the case. I have a keen sense of character. Madame Xiao doesn't strike me as a frivolous person, so it's essential for her to understand what's expected. I'll inquire about it later. If she truly lacks this knowledge, we should educate her, or Lord Xiao's reputation might suffer in the future." Princess Consort, somewhat reassured by Auntie Fu's earnest words, nodded and instructed, "Please do go and speak with her. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1345. She really didn't know. Auntie Fu nodded with a warm smile. "If that's the case, I'll take it upon myself to instruct her." Princess Consort didn't believe Auntie Fu needed to personally undertake the task, but since Auntie Fu was willing, she acquiesced with a nod. Upon learning that Xiao Xian had arrived to greet her, Auntie Fu addressed her with a pleasant smile, saying, "Madam Xiao, how polite of you to come. There must have been some misunderstanding yesterday." Princess Consort responded with a smile. "You're standing up for her." Auntie Fu's heart skipped a beat, and she smiled, saying, "I'm merely speaking on her behalf, considering she lacks guidance from her elders and is unfamiliar with the customs. Ultimately, it's all for your and the Crown Prince's benefit." Princess Consort chuckled, saying, "I appreciate your kindness." As the maid ushered Xiao Xian in, the two ceased their conversation. Xiao Xian approached and greeted Princess Consort. As she observed Xiao Xian, Princess Consort's heart softened, recognizing that both of them had made significant contributions to the East Palace. She found Xiao Xian rather appealing and sighed inwardly, offering her a friendly smile. Xiao Xian expressed her gratitude and took her seat. With little common ground to initiate a substantial conversation, they exchanged polite words of thanks. Princess Consort, accustomed to handling such situations, skillfully guided the conversation. As the Princess Consort, she received numerous visitors, many of whom she might not be personally acquainted with. It was her responsibility to steer the conversation, as no one dared to take the lead. Without her initiative, the atmosphere could become awkward. Xiao Xian responded to Princess Consort's prompts, and her ease in conversation seemed to please Princess Consort. After a short while, when Princess Consort raised her teacup, Xiao Xian recognized the cue that the visit was concluding. She rose and took her leave. Auntie Fu accompanied Xiao Xian to the garden and with a warm smile, mentioned that the chrysanthemums were in bloom, suggesting that Xiao Xian should pick 2 pots for herself. Sensing that Auntie Fu likely had something to discuss, Xiao Xian complied. However, when Auntie Fu posed her question, Xiao Xian couldn't help but feel embarrassed. Honestly, she had been unaware of such a matter. It was quite the coincidence. Xiao Yunduan had intended to address this issue later in the evening. He had returned home and fallen asleep, leaving her waiting that night. But she couldn't hold off any longer. Xiao Xian felt a pang of guilt, unable to explain herself, especially when she recalled the reason she hadn't been able to inform Princess Consort of her discontent and the missed reward on the following day. Fortunately, Auntie Fu recognized that Xiao Xian lacked guidance in these matters. She proceeded to enlighten her on various unspoken rules and expressed her willingness to serve as her mentor. Xiao Xian, naturally, was delighted by this offer. Auntie Fu possessed impeccable manners and willingly shared her knowledge. They agreed that Auntie Fu would visit the Xiao family from time to offer instruction whenever she had free time. Xiao Xian expressed her gratitude and asked Auntie Fu to relay this information to Princess Consort, to which Auntie Fu agreed. Upon hearing this, Princess Consort finally released the lingering unpleasantness in her heart. It had already been arranged for them to accompany Prince of Qingdi on a hunting trip. In a couple of days, the 3rd prince, 4th prince, and 2nd prince would join him, and officials from the East Palace would represent the Crown Prince, who needed to remain in the capital to attend to government affairs. Prince Nua, despite a prior altercation with Xiao Yunduan, held a fondness for him. When he learned that Xiao Yunduan wouldn't be accompanying him, he insisted on Xiao Yunduan's presence for the excursion. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1346. Preparing to go south. Xiao Yunduan adamantly declined Prince Nua's invitation, citing his busy schedule, a lack of archery or equestrian skills, and his belief that his presence would be of little use on a hunting expedition. Had it not been for Xiao Yunduan and Xiao Xian's plans to spend the new year in Jiangnan, the Crown Prince might have accepted the invitation on Xiao Yunduan's behalf. However, it was clear that their New Year's expenses took precedence, so the Crown Prince sided with Xiao Yunduan's decision and reassured Prince Nua. Prince Nua, a peculiar character, didn't take offense at Xiao Yunduan's refusal. In fact, he admired him even more. After all, not everyone had the courage to decline his invitation, as many sought opportunities to curry favor with him. Rather than face potential disapproval from the Crown Prince, his superiors, and others for rejecting Prince Nua, he proactively spoke in Xiao Yunduan's favor. He offered to share a drink when time allowed, as he would be stationed in the capital for an extended period, departing only after the next spring. Xiao Yunduan found himself at a loss. He had no desire to share a drink with this man. The group journeyed to a royal hunting ground over 200 kilometers from the capital. The officials and guards responsible for their reception in the capital breathed a collective sigh of relief as they departed. Finally, they could enjoy some rest and respite. The crown prince had already made the necessary arrangements. In the following days, Xiao Yunduan would travel to the south, inspecting the canals in Jiangnan for approximately 30 days. As soon as the official ship was ready, they would embark on their journey without any concerns. Sun Bai and Sun Qian continued to lead more than 10 guards from the Eastern Palace who accompanied them. Before leaving the capital, Qiao Xian ensured that all her tasks were completed. This time, Qiao Xian brought Li Xia and Li Qia with her while leaving Qing Yan and Songshi behind in the capital. The strawberry production had significantly decreased, prompting Qiao Xian to inform the manager of Jinquan restaurant that the supply would cease in approximately 10 days. Anyone desiring fresh strawberries would need to wait until late March or early April of the following year. Despite the strawberries benefiting from Qiao Xian's wood power, substantial variety improvements, and enhanced cold resistance, the capital still experienced a harsh winter. Without the protection of a greenhouse and proper care, safely navigating the winter remained a significant challenge for the strawberries. Preparations for winter were essential. The strawberries had to be pruned, leaving only the roots, and then they would be covered with thick straw to encourage growth in the spring. While the restaurant owner expressed regret, he understood that fruit growth depended on factors beyond anyone's control. It was a matter left to nature. He even prepared a gift for the Xiao family and requested Qiao Xian to sign a contract with Xiao Yunduan to ensure that the tea house would continue to receive strawberry supplies the following year. Qiao Xian amended the contract, stipulating that she would provide a minimum of 200 caddies per day when the quantity allowed. With Xiao Yunduan's status as a court official and a popular figure, the manager didn't dare to voice any objections. Qiao Xian's resolute stance left him reluctant to utter another word, fearing he might upset her. Fortunately, their working relationship had developed over time, and he understood that Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan were not motivated solely by greed. Given their initial commitment to him, they had no intention of abandoning the partnership. For him, this was already a favorable outcome. The concept of exclusivity was no longer a matter of concern. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1347. Potatoes. Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan arrived at the farm in Cloudwater Town. This time, the entire estate was in decent shape. Its cleanliness and tidiness had begun to draw attention, leading to a few scenes of budding prosperity. Although the staff hadn't been hired in sufficient numbers yet, tenants had already signed occupancy agreements and begun moving in, one family at a time. Many of the households had chickens and dogs, and children played freely, infusing the area with a lively atmosphere. The main courtyard of the farm had been meticulously arranged, with all the furniture provided by Qiao Xian's contacts in the capital's furniture stores. They had chosen high-quality fir wood, ensuring exquisite craftsmanship and a smooth finish. After applying several layers of tung oil, the original wood's simple and elegant style was perfectly preserved. It was the ideal environment for them to settle down in the countryside. Qiao Xian carefully surveyed the progress. Half of the farms were already prepared, while the rest were still awaiting delivery. However, these orders had been placed and were set to arrive before the new year. They had also acquired oxen and donkeys, 25 oxen, 8 donkeys, and 10 custom-made carts for transporting goods. Given the farm's proximity to the Northwest Pass, horses were not readily available from local sources, as their trade was regulated by the government. However, other livestock were easier to procure at reasonable prices. They continued their exploration of the plantation, eventually walking around. The cabbages and radishes had grown splendidly, displaying a lush and tender appearance, quite charming. Judging by their progress, it wouldn't be long before the radishes started producing stems, and the cabbages would begin to form heads. This timing was ideal for them to commence sales towards the end of November. Songshi was elated as he spoke. "Master, madam, you might not be aware, but our land is exceptionally fertile. The radishes and cabbages grown here are lush and vibrant, exuding strength and vigor. I took a look at the neighboring villages, and none of their produce looks as good as ours. Once we put them on the market, they're bound to fetch excellent prices. Despite the fact that the sum of money earned might be considered insignificant by the master and madam, Xianxia took immense pride in having earned it himself. Internally amused, Xiao nodded and replied, "You must have taken good care of them. When we sell the vegetables, everyone will receive their fair share. Don't sell off all of them. Make sure the families get a portion. They can use them during the winter." In the capital, nearly every cellar and pottery jar would be stocked with winter vegetables. After inspecting the estate, they packed their belongings and enjoyed a day of rest. The following day, they boarded an official ship at the Tong State docks, heading south. On the day before his departure, Xiao Yunduan visited the East Palace bearing a 3-tiered lunchbox filled with various potato dishes, potato pancakes, and steamed potatoes. His intent was to brief the Crown Prince about the potatoes. The Crown Prince never accepted items from external sources without thorough scrutiny. Even though it was Xiao Yunduan, the eunuchs would meticulously inspect for poison and taste the food before presenting it to the Crown Prince. Fortunately, the Crown Prince trusted Xiao Yunduan, believing that the food he brought was not a mere offering but had a significant purpose. Thus, he allowed its presentation. Had it been anyone else, they wouldn't have been given the chance to offer it to him. Xiao Yunduan detailed the specifics of the potatoes, and the Crown Prince grew increasingly focused as he listened. He even summoned his confidant from the Ministry of Revenue to listen in on the discussion. Together, they tasted the potatoes. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1348. A Great Merit. It could be cooked and served as a staple food, boasting a pleasing taste and remarkable yield. What was this? It was nothing short of a divine blessing bestowed upon the people of Great Qin. The official from the Ministry of Revenue couldn't contain his skepticism and questioned Xiao Yunduan. Is it true? Is it genuinely this abundant? Can it truly thrive with minimal care? This seems unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. Xiao Yunduan led the Crown Prince and the others to his own land and proceeded to dig with a hoe. The Crown Prince, if he wished, could choose any plant he desired. However, it became evident that Xiao Yunduan had not been exaggerating. The potatoes were incredibly prolific. They dug up several stalks and filled a basket. This is incredible. This is remarkable. Congratulations, Crown Prince. Congratulations. This is a boon for Great Qin. Congratulations, Crown Prince. The Crown Prince was elated, his eyes sparkling with joy. He paid no mind to the dirt on his hands as he held a potato and meticulously cleaned off the surface mud. His touch was gentle, conveying a sense of comfort and happiness. Officer Xiao, you have rendered a significant service to Great Qin. Xiao Yunduan modestly replied, Crown Prince, you are too kind. I simply stumbled upon it. He recounted how he had encountered the potato while traveling to the capital for an exam. Along the way, he had spotted someone enjoying it and, curious, had purchased some with his wife. Upon tasting it, they found it to be exceptionally delightful and bought the remaining stock. They planted some at home, which thrived remarkably. Surprisingly, when they planted them in the capital, the results were even better. It was clear that these potatoes were not finicky about their growing conditions. Harvest time was just around the corner. A couple of days ago, his wife had brought a few servants to harvest a batch. These potatoes stored well and could be consumed throughout the winter. Little did they anticipate that fields everywhere would yield such an abundance of elongated fruits. Upon reflection, she believed it would be wise to inform the Crown Prince of this discovery. However, she feared her explanation might not be adequate. Hence, she chose to prepare food made from potatoes and present it to the Crown Prince. This was the plan devised by Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan. Once they informed the Crown Prince about the potatoes, he would likely report it to the emperor and send officials to manage the potato resources in the region. In such a scenario, Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan would have little say in the matter. Qiao Xian had intended to cultivate potatoes herself in the coming year, but if the potatoes were taken to the East Palace, they might end up in the hands of the emperor or the Ministry of Revenue. In that case, how would she acquire the seeds? Hence, she decided to preemptively dig up an acre or two, estimating they would collect nearly enough seeds. They'd still have a surplus, which should suffice. Upon hearing Xiao Yunduan's words, the Crown Prince suddenly realized something. With a smile, the Crown Prince remarked, "Officer Xiao, your dedication to the Empire is truly commendable. I will report this to my father, and he will be delighted. Your Highness, I'm deeply grateful for your kindness. I can never repay you enough. It's my duty." The Crown Prince chuckled. "Officer Xiao, you remain as modest as ever." Colleagues cast envious glances at Xiao Yunduan, convinced that he was incredibly fortunate and that he had stumbled upon a string of good fortune. They speculated that his promotion was imminent. As for the rewards, there was no doubt they would be exceedingly generous. Indeed, on the same day, the Crown Prince dispatched a god to oversee the garden. In accordance with Xiao Yunduan's request, the Crown Prince instructed that the strawberries in the garden were not to be tampered with. Everyone understood that Lord Xiao had a promising future ahead of him and was a prominent figure in the East Palace. Therefore, the Crown Prince made it clear that there should be no interference. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1349. Going to do private matters. Of course, the soldiers indulged in private foraging, and Xiao Yunduan and Xiao Xian were not inclined to be petty about it. As long as it didn't constitute sabotage, they adopted a nonchalant, indifferent attitude and allowed them to do as they pleased. If the water was too clear, there would be no fish. If one took things too seriously, it would not only trouble others but also oneself. As long as it didn't violate their principles or cross any boundaries, they brushed it off with ease. Xiao Yunduan had dropped a bombshell, and regardless of the potential trouble that 500 meters might cause, he headed south with Xiao Xian. The canal's waterway remained unobstructed. The boat traveled swiftly and afforded them plenty of leisure time. However, the season was quite cold, especially on the desolate river. When the wind blew, it felt even chillier. Most of the time, they had to take refuge in the cabin. It was a rare period when no one disturbed them. They didn't make any stops along the way, except for docking at night to rest and replenish their supplies. They continued their journey straight to Hangzhou. Upon arriving in Hangzhou, Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan instructed the others to wait for them. The next day, they took Lixia, Liqiu, Sun Bai, and Sun Qian to Zhao Shu's mansion. While they had informed Zhao Shu that they would definitely visit before December, they hadn't specified the exact date. Zhao Shu's ties to his hometown made it hard for him to leave, and he often roamed around the Jiangnan region. Their timing didn't matter much. Even if he wasn't currently in Hangzhou, his subordinates could return within a day or two. Hangzhou's 100,000 acres of flower fields were their primary source of income. Unlike the matured mulberry garden, this venture was in its infancy and required constant monitoring and supervision. More than half of Zhao Shu's time in Jiangnan was spent in Hangzhou. Although they hadn't communicated their arrival in advance, they didn't expect Zhao Shu to be absent from Hangzhou. It turned out they had missed him. Aunt Qing and Uncle Qing were also present. The two of them were overjoyed to see Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan, warmly welcoming them into the room and engaging in lively conversation. However, when Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan inquired about Zhao Shu's whereabouts and expected return, Uncle Qing and Aunt Qing exchanged uneasy glances and began to speak hesitantly, as if they were still treading carefully. This left Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan puzzled. They exchanged glances and couldn't help but wonder. With a friendly smile, Xiao Xian remarked, "Young Master Zhao, if you're occupied with your own affairs and it's inconvenient to share the details, that's perfectly fine. We can take a look at the flower fields and review the financial records. Your absence won't pose any problem." Uncle Qing chimed in. "Indeed, Lord Xiao, Madam Xiao, there's no need to worry. The financial accounts have been prepared, and your dividends are ready. I have the authority to guide you through whatever you'd like to inspect. Everything is in order, and we can accommodate your preferences. Our young master is indeed occupied and hasn't returned yet. We can't confirm when he'll be able to come back in the next few days. We apologize for any inconvenience. Yes, please forgive us, Lord Xiao and Madam Xiao. Our young master did mention his intention to travel to the capital to visit you both personally and discuss matters. Qiao Xian nodded with a gracious smile. Very well, we will await his return. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. You're tuning in to the Wisdom Diary YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.